Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if neglected Naruto was sent to Digimon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by 10-Tailed Jockster, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Fresh start. Come on kid. You need to haul ass a little bit faster. A deep and animalistic voice rang out. A boy with spiky blonde hair gritted his teeth in frustration and exhaust as he heard the voices of his pursuers come dangerously close. It also didn't help that the deep voice was complaining and blaming him for the situation they got into. Easy for you to say, you're in my gut, not running beside me, you bastard. The boy said out loud as his cerulean blue eyes searched around for any escape. Yes, that deep voice so happens to be sealed within the boy and belonged to the most powerful living Biju and a very powerful demon, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, or as he is also known in Makai, Kyuubi no Yoko. Kyuubi growled in annoyance as he too was trying to think of an escape as his life was tied pretty fucking tight to the boy. In layman's terms, if the boy dies, so does he, and the demonic fox so happens to like living. This is all your fault, you know. The fox simply stated, and the boy almost tripped in disbelief. My fault. He exclaimed while dodging a few kunai that were thrown at him. You're to blame too, you egotistical son of a bitch. By now it was already figured that this boy was no other than Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Boy. You leave Kasan out of this, shitston. Kyuubi called out and Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. He tried his best to ignore the fox as his thoughts drifted to what happened earlier and why he was in the current problem. A few hours before, Naruto nervously gulped what seemed to be the 10th time today as he neared his team's training ground. Do you think I'm ready? The 13th thought to the beast within him. Kyuubi yawned at the boy, making Naruto's right eye twitch. It was a simple question, carpet. If anyone told Naruto he was going to befriend the reason of his village's almost destruction 13 years ago, he would probably laugh in their face. Then prank their ass to hell. The fox merely grunted at the slight insult. You want my input, fine. You're a dumbus for still trying to court that pink harpy. Trust me when I say there is much better fish in the sea than her. Hell, a jellyfish is better than that thing. Kyuubi said, and Naruto quickly went to the girl's defense, making Kyuubi roll his eyes. Now if anyone told the fox he was going to be sealed within a brat, he probably would have looked at them stupidly before crushing them beneath his paws. Then again, that's just his nature. If that same person somehow survived and told him that he was going to befriend the brat and give him dating advice, he would have forgo to just eating the poor bastard alive. To those two, their relationship could be compared to that of rivals or bickering siblings. Kyuubi sees Naruto as a poor and idiotic soul that needed a superior guidance aka him. Naruto saw the sealed beast similar to that of an older brother, a very annoying and perverted older brother. It was a big shock to Naruto when the fox actually talked to him with little hostility in his tone when he was bedridden in the hospital. After walking bloody and bruised through the great gates of Konoha with an unconscious Asuka, who had defected from the village hours before to seek power from one of Konoha's most hated enemy, Orochimaru, Naruto processed to pass out. What he didn't see though was the murderous glare from a newly arrived Sakura Haruno or the uproar of the villagers, but that was quickly stomped after the arrival of the Hokage. Kyuubi, however, saw the whole exchange and frankly was quite pissed in Naruto's honor. Now, by no means does Kyuubi like Naruto, but he respects the boy for coming against the odds that were stacked against him. Naruto fought against many opponents that were superior to him in terms of power and intelligence. People like Zabuza and that girl boy the brat met in the forest or against the snake Sennin not once but twice and survived. Granted, the fox was still pissed at the ceiling during that time and allowed his anger from it to blind him. So imagine Naruto's surprise when he was summoned into his mindscape after being bedridden due to his injuries and was given a half-assed apology from the fox. Had it been anyone else, Naruto would have just waved them off, but this is the Kyuubi we're talking about. This was a beast, a demon that lived off the hatred of others, so Naruto took the apology to heart. That was 3 weeks ago, and being back to full strength and given Sakura time to gloat over the Uchiha, Naruto thought it was time to really tell her his feelings. Oh no. What if my breath smells like Akamaru's ass? Maybe I should go back and rebrush. What if my hair is too messy? Gah. I'm a mess. Naruto thought, and Kyuubi really wanted to bang his head on his cage door. I swear to Juubi, if you complain one more time, I'm going to go mad. The fox exclaimed, and Naruto mentally pouted at the fox. Oh, don't give me that. You monkeys court in the weirdest of ways, some of them I could actually die of laughter from. Kyuubi said while scratching himself behind the ears. Naruto just rolled his eyes at the beast. Oh, and what's your idea of gaining a female's attention, Mr. Cupid? Naruto thought, sarcastically, gaining a glare from Kyuubi, who just grunted at his response. Please, all I had to do was wave my tails and them vixen would be on me like bitches in heat. Kyuubi said with arrogance dripping from his mouth. I do remember that one time with 4 vixens quite well. Naruto resisted the urge to face palm at the sealed beast and gauged mentally in disgust. Nice to know you were a man whore. Naruto said nonchalantly, making the fox face fault and sputter out insults. All of them failing, making Naruto mentally laugh at the fox, having finally gained an upper hand on the beast. Oh yeah, laugh it up, but at least I got some ass. Naruto just grinned at the childish behavior of the fox. Who knew the strongest of the Biju was a child at heart? Naruto saw the familiar short pink hair of his teammate and tuned the angry fox out. He paused and took a deep breath before putting on his biggest grin and walked into the clearing. Morning, Sakura-chan. Naruto said, exciting while closing his eyes and scratching the back of his head. Sakura gave him a small glare but quickly hid it in a fake look of wonderment and annoyance, a usual look she had for him. Wonderment, cause she wonders how he is still alive despite being a very easy target, and annoyance, cause he'll probably try to ask her out yet again. You have to be so loud and annoying in the morning. She mumbled, but Naruto heard it and his grin faltered a bit. It was quiet in the clearing as Naruto decided to give the girl some space, so she wasn't annoyed with him and gave him one of her anti-Naruto punches. Sakura raised an eyebrow at this but ignored it in favor of thinking about who she was going to see after their sensei speaks with them. Speaking of which, the silence was soon broken by the twin sounds of crunching leaves. The two genins turned their heads to see their masked sensei, Kakashi Haddock, and a smug Sasuke, who had several places on his body that had been bandaged. Sakura's face brightened as she gazed on the Uchiha, while Naruto gained a small yet sad smile. So Bachan really did listen to me. He thought sadly as he remembered his conversation with the busty Hokage about Sasuke's future. She wanted him to face life in prison for defection and removed from the shinobi corps. Naruto on the other hand knew it would devastate Sakura and pleaded to Tsunade to let Sasuke not only stay a shinobi but remain on their team. At first Tsunade refused and tried to persuade the boy that the Uchiha almost killed him and was the cause of some of his friends to be in a critical situation. I know that, Bachan, but Sakura-chan may not understand and might do something irrational. Please, can you do this favor for me, Hokage-sama? He remembered telling her and noticed the surprised look on her face when he addressed her formally. Kakashi looked up from his porn novel to see his students looking at him expectantly. Ah yes, well I actually had nothing planned for the day. He mentally chuckled at his students' look of disbelief. I just wanted to bring Sasuke over from the hospital. He patted the Uchiha on the shoulder before giving them his signature eye smiles and started to walk away. Try not to do anything illegal. He said over his shoulders before disappearing in a shunshin, leaving the three genin alone in the training ground. Sakura immediately flocked over to Sasuke's side, missing the look of irritation on the Uchiha's face or the saddened look on Naruto's. Are you okay, Sasuke-kun? Do you need anything? Sakura asked as her eyes gazed over his bandages. Sasuke scowled at her and ignored her question in favor of glaring at Naruto. Said blonde broke out of his downcast look and gave Sasuke a grin. How does it feel to be out, team? He asked using the nickname he gave the Uchiha back when they were in the academy. Sasuke's glare seemed to harden before hiding behind a look of indifference. The Uchiha grunted and Naruto chuckled at the usual response he would get from him. Sasuke didn't forget what happened at the valley or his defeat from the hands of the supposed dead last. Well, he won't admit it out loud, he was very jealous at Naruto. The blonde was able to defeat most of his enemies that were easily stronger than. Some of the enemies be aimed toward Sasuke only. Let's add in the fact that he was more interested in the dope than him. Going to Orochimaru was not only going to give him power to defeat Itachi, but to also crush the blonde. No orphan street rat was going to upstage someone that came from a powerful and well-known clan. It's obvious Naruto should stay at the bottom and should not rise above him. Sasuke looked around the clearing before an idea popped in his head. An evil smirk that looked oddly similar to the snake Sennin's found a way to his face. Well, since I've been in the hospital I feel like my skills had dampened. So why don't we spar before training some? Sasuke asked with a slight mocking tone, however neither Naruto nor Sakura took notice and stared gapingly at him. But you just got out, Sasuke-kun. Sakura exclaimed and Sasuke glared at her, making all her complaints stay in her mouth. Naruto gave the Uchiha an untrusting glance before shaking his head. No, like Sakura-chan said, you just got out. Naruto said and Sasuke growled in frustration, his mind already made up. Fine. The Uchiha grounded out through gritted teeth before charging at the surprised genin and sending a sharp kick to his chest. Naruto stumbled back a bit and held onto his aching chest but couldn't block a haymaker from Sasuke's fist and was sent to the floor. Naruto jumped back up, landing in a crouched position and shook away the mental cobwebs. Fight me. The Uchiha stated. Naruto got up and narrowed his eyes at the scene in front of him. What the hell is your problem, Sasuke? We're not making a repeat of what happened last at the hospital. Naruto exclaimed out, recalling a similar situation with the Uchiha. I'm not going to fight you. Naruto said quietly before turning around and walking away. Sasuke felt his anger pick up and clenched his fist to the point where it drew blood. Don't you dare turn your back on me like I'm some common worm. Sasuke yelled before running at Naruto's retreating figure with a fist cocked back. Naruto quickly looked over his shoulders and ducked under the swing. Sasuke grunted and threw his leg up, hoping to catch the blonde bastard in the head. Naruto jumped back and gave the Uchiha his own glare. You wanna fight? Fine then, I'll enjoy kicking your ass a second time. Naruto taunted out before going into a stance. Sasuke's crimson Sharingan eyes blazed in anger at the jab of his earlier defeat and with a cry, launched out a flying kick. Naruto blocked the attack with his arm and using his arm strength, pushed the Uchiha back. Sasuke landing on the ground and narrowly avoided a jab from Naruto thanks to his Sharingan. He smirked before grabbing the blonde's offending limb and pulled it towards him. Naruto cried out in surprise and received a hard punch to his cheek that was most likely gonna bruise. Sasuke wasn't done and quickly placed both of his hands on the ground and sent out a twin vertical kick to Naruto's chin. The Kyuubi container lifted off the ground and landed a few yards away painfully on his back. Sasuke got up with a smirk on his face but frowned when he saw Sakura come close to the battle. Be actually useful in life and stay out of this fight. He said harshly and Sakura was taken back by his tone and edged away from the fight. He heard a painful grunt and turned to see Naruto glaring at him with blood escaping the corner of his lips. Don't speak to her like that. He growled out and Sasuke's smirk returned although with a lot more arrogance. And who's gonna stop me, loser? He said and Naruto was the one to charge this time. Sasuke pulled his arms up in an X to block the punch. He winced silently as he felt his bones shake from the force and looked up to see that Naruto's eyes had gotten darker. The Uchiha dodged a few jabs and was about to send out his own punch when a kick landed on his cheek, sending the boy flying. He righted himself in the air but missed the kick to the back of the head that sent him to the ground. He felt someone grab his legs and was thrown over Naruto's shoulder into a group of 3 clones that landed an uppercut on his chin. Naruto watched as Sasuke landed hard back on the ground and slowly pushed away Kyuubi's influence. Seeing how the Sharingan user wasn't getting back up he started to walk away until he heard the chirping of birds. We are not done here. Sasuke screamed with a slight crazed look in his eyes. Naruto narrowed his eyes and quickly made a cage bunshin. The clone quickly pushed chakra around Naruto's stretched hand, created an orb of chakra. The original Naruto glared out at his opponent as he thought about the following things that may happen if these attacks connect. No doubt one of them will be hurt, and since Sasuke doesn't have a demon sealed within him that could heal most of his wounds, Naruto bet that himself will be quite fine. If Sasuke did get hurt, then the blonde will have to deal with, as Kyuubi called her, the pink harpy. She'll probably berate him or just outright hit him before taking the Uchiha to the hospital. If Naruto backs off, then Sasuke surely won't and will attack him, and with how murderous he looks, might try to kill him. I doubt he'll get the same treatment from Sakura like she would for Sasuke if it was reverse. As Naruto took time to really think about it, maybe it's time he let go. It's obvious he'll never be in her mind like Sasuke was, inflicting slight jealousy in the blonde. As he was thinking he didn't notice his anger spike or that he unconsciously leaked some of Kyuubi's yokai into the orb, turning the color from a blue to a light purple. The clone nodded before poofing away signaling the end of the attack. The 2 teenagers looked at each other before charging at top speed, hoping to cause some harm to each other. Naruto knew there was turning back and launched his attack forward with Sasuke doing the same. Rasengan. Chidori. There was an explosion that rocked the training ground and caused dirt and pieces of rocks to fly around. Sakura shielded her eyes from the debris and struggled to remain standing as the aftermath tried to push her down. This went on for about a few minutes till it stopped and Sakura still had her arms up, not sure if she could look. Eventually she placed her arms down but gasped at the sight before her. Sasuke was unconscious with burnt patches around his body, mainly on his right side though. Naruto looked worse as he was kneeling in pain cradling his left arm that was burned pitch black from the elbow down. The grassy area around them was burnt off giving the area a barren look. Sakura's eyes filled with immense worry as she ran towards her crush, hoping he would be okay. Naruto looked through painful eyes to see the pink cat coming over. He gritted his teeth as another jolt of pain scaled through his body and contacted the beast within. Mind helping a bit here? He thought impatiently and the fox in question growled at him. What the hell do you think I'm doing? You just had to leak through some of my power and now look at you. Chakra burns. It's gonna take a little longer than usual, so focus on other things like that pink harpy. Kyuubi grounded out and went working on healing the boy. Naruto ignored the stinging pain and tried to stand, but he didn't expect the hard slap that was delivered to his face. He was sent back to the ground but landed on his burnt arm, earning a yelp of pain from the boy. He grasped the limb and looked up to see Sakura, giving him the most murderous and harm-wishing glare he has even seen on her face. In fact it remained Naruto a lot of the villagers' faces when they saw him pass by. What the hell, you baka? Look what you did to Sasuke-kun. she exclaimed, and Naruto looked at her and then at the Uchiha, who he swore had a small smirk on his face. At Sakura he was cut off however by the genin, who just bent down and, with extreme difficulty, picked up Sasuke. "Just go away, somewhere far from me and leave us alone." She cried out and dragged Sasuke away, leaving Naruto alone in the clearing. It was silent in the clearing as the birds and critters ran away since the beginning of the fight. Hell, even Kyuubi didn't know what to say and opted to stay quiet and heal his container's arm. Naruto looked at the spot where his teammates once stood before stuffing his hands in his pockets. Again ignoring the pain at the action, the downcast teen walked away from clearing. Great way to make someone hate me. He thought bitterly. Kyuubi finally placed in his input. Who said she didn't already? Naruto flinched at the thought before kicking a rock out of his way. I mean, was there any actions or thoughts that proved she liked you? Well, you choose not to act upon it or acknowledge it. I can hear your deepest thoughts. You never really liked her, did you? He accused, and Naruto decided to remain quiet. Kyuubi wasn't done with the boy and kept on. Why did you have to sacrifice your happiness and life for someone you really didn't like? Hell, you didn't just dislike her. He said, trying to probe the boy into talking. Still he was quiet, and Kyuubi growled in frustration. Fine, be like that. Naruto just sighed out loud, winching every once in a while at his injuries. His thoughts traced back to what Kyuubi tried to explain to him, and his mouth twisted in a frown. After all, the fox was right in all accounts, but Naruto wanted to deny the truth. Deeply he found the Pinkette's presence to be annoying and frustrating. Yet he thought that if he gained the girl's attention and interest, he could gain the rest of the village's respect. Speaking of which, as Naruto was lost in thought, didn't notice that he walked in the village's marketplace or that he bumped into a villager. Sorry. He mumbled out, still dazed, and ignored the pain again. The villager apologized back until he got a full view of the boy, and that apologetic look turned into one of rage and disgust. Why, you stupid brat. The villager called out, and Naruto broke away from his trance to narrowly avoid the intended shove from the villager. The villager immediately lost his balance and fell to the floor. Naruto gave him an indifferent look before walking away, mutter something along the lines of idiotic villagers. The villager quickly got up and glared at the boy's back, but smiled evilly when a plan formed in his head. Anbu, anyone, help, I've been assaulted by that brat. He cried out. Naruto quickly turned around only to face a growing mob of people with a smirking man in the center. The blonde rolled his eyes and prepared to give chase when he noticed some shinobi in the crowd. Whispers broke through as Naruto felt a small amount of killer intent aimed at him. I knew it was only a matter of time. Not only did he assault this poor man and also attack Sasuke-kun. Yeah, I heard he also gravely injured the poor lad. As the revelations of Naruto's earlier fight came into view, the mob seemed to grow in numbers, while Naruto was thinking how they would know of their fight. No doubt it was the pink bullhorn. Kyuubi grunted out and Naruto nodded in agreement. The boy, with his good arm, reached into his jacket, making the crowd tense, and pulled out some smoke pellets. Slamming them to the ground, Naruto made his escape, forgetting the shinobi that were in the crowd. I advise you not to go home, kid. The fox stated as Naruto jumped from rooftop to rooftop. And why's that? He thought to the fox as he stopped. He didn't get an answer from the beast as the boy's danger senses went off. He quickly jumped away from the kunai that would have pierced his heart. He looked up to see a couple of shinobi that were glare and releasing killer intent directed at the boy. You know, I'm getting real tired of this village's shit. The men were probably Chunin level and seemed to be the cannon fodder type. No of them were familiar to Naruto, and he smirked at them, mentally smiling as their glare deepened. This village must have low standards of me to send out average Joes at me. I thought the village knew better. He taunted and mocked but knew he was touching fire. The Chunin in the middle, who was probably the leader, pointed at the blonde. Get him. With that command the other four men rushed at Naruto. Said blonde grinned at the challenge and took off, being sure to mock and taunt them every time they missed him. Now, kind of regretting mocking them now. Kyuubi said with a sarcastic tone as Naruto jumped over a branch and growled mentally at the fox. He had somehow managed to bring the chase outside the village in hopes they would just get tired and leave. However, Kami seemed to have other plans in store for the boy. Osakaga. As Naruto was trying to insult the beast, he wasn't paying attention to his surrounding and was rewarded with a kunai in his upper thigh. Naruto crashed through to the forest floor, though being mindful of his still healing arm. Yup, I think they're serious this time. He mumbled before yanking the kunai out. No, I thought they wanted to give you a hug. Shut the fuck, Kyuubi. Naruto exclaimed out loud as he tried to get back to his feet, only to fall to one knee. Shit. I can't just limp away. He said with an exhausted sigh and heard his pursuers coming closer. You have to know a way out of here. He thought to the sealed demon with a little panic in his voice. Kyuubi growled at the situation in front of him, all playfulness gone as his own well-being could be in danger. He too felt the men come closer and also felt the malicious intent rolling off of them. Well, it was a pleasing sensation to him. The fox wanted to live. I may have an idea. he spoke cautiously. Well, don't keep it to yourself. Naruto spoke impatiently, not liking the idea of being caught. Naruto then felt a tug on his mind and was right in front of the caged fox before the boy could blink. Or just pull me in my mindscape, not like I have people chasing my ass. He said in the smartest tone. Shut it, midget. The fox said with a smirk, knowing Naruto was sensitive about his height. Now this idea of mine was something I used a lot before I was sealed in you. Me being a high-level demon, whose power can be compared to a demon lord, I'm able to travel between Ninjenkai and Makai with little effort. The fox explained as Naruto was confused about certain topics. Demon lords. You guys actually have rankings? He asked and Kyuubi lowered his head, so was mostly eye level with him. The fox nodded and grunted at him. Yes, but that's a tale for another time. With this plan I have in mind, we might have some setbacks. He saw Naruto about to burst and gave him a look not interrupt. While the brat was slowly growing on him, the fox still thought of him to be a nuisance. Makai is made specifically for demons and demons only. Humans that manage to find a gate to Makai or get there by other means usually die within 2 minutes of being there. The place is unforgiving, and if the lesser demons don't kill you, the yokai-infested atmosphere will. Naruto looked up at him with wide eyes. And how the fuck do you expect me to survive down there? He practically yelled at the beast who snorted at the boy. You have me, plain and simple. Even though I'm trapped within you, my aura still flares around. So most of the lesser demons will leave you be. As for the poisonous air, you are already sort used to yokai, thanks to me having been sealed within you. Well, you won't be practically taking in deep breaths, you will survive long enough for us escape back to Ninjenkai. The fox explained and Naruto felt somewhat better, but frowned as the biggest question came to mind. What's our plan to get there? He asked and Kyuubi jabbed his head to the seal. Naruto looked at the piece of paper then at the fox. Didn't you tell me that if I remove the seal we'll both die? He looked at the fox skeptically who looked quite sheepish. Yeah, about that, sort of lied there, but that's not what I'm trying to get. In order to perform the technique you need to know the seals and have the yokai to back it up. Since I doubt you'll be able to remember the seals or channel the yokai, I need to be the one to do that. However, this damn thing restricts most of my power, and so I need for you to rip the piece of shit in half from top to bottom. Be careful though, if you rip any more or any less the results could turn out to be quite painful. Kyuubi informed with a warning at the end. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the fox before walking up to seal. He placed a hand on it and marveled at the power he sensed behind the thing. Once you rip it, I'll be able to control your body for exactly 3 minutes before the seal will force me back in here. Just enough time to perform the technique and take your body out of here. Naruto nodded before carefully ripping the seal the way Kyuubi had instructed. He was then thrown back from the influx of power and felt himself to be weightless. He realized he was in the outside world but not really in sync with his body. So this is what it feels like not to be in control. He mumbled as he felt himself do some unknown hand seals and talking in a different language. Kyuubi slammed his, Naruto's, hand on the floor. Makuzuki. Makai no Seki. Kyuubi finished with a smirk just as Naruto's pursuers came out. The men were frightened when a giant black, with a slight purple-tinted gate rose out of the ground, causing the area to shake. In the center of the gate there was a silver horn grinning skull that rested upon 2 black handles. Not minding the pain he strolled over and opened the gate with little ease showing an ominous black portal. His smirk widened and turned around to face the group. I would be lying if I say the boy was going to miss this wretched place or that village for that matter. Let's hope our next encounter includes me out of the seal and you begging for your life, haha. The fox told them in voice that was not Naruto's. He then jumped in making the ninjas break out of their trance long enough to quickly unleash some jutsus at the portal, hoping one of them kills the fox menace. The gate wavered as the attacks hit before slamming shut and sinking back into the ground. The men cheered thinking they had defeated the demon and went back to the village with drinks and rewards on their minds. However, what they didn't know was that the attacks that hit the gate overpowered the technique just by a scratch. Now the boy was flying through the known and unknown, let's just hope he gets control back of his body. Chapter 2. New look. KP. Wah, bet the fuck up. Naruto snapped his eyes open and shot straight up. Well, he would if he was standing on solid ground. Naruto looked around with scared eyes as he floated in a light gray void. He tried not to show panic in voice, but quickly contacted the beast. Please tell me we're in hell. He pleaded ironically and heard a growl from the fox. The next thing Naruto knew, he was once again in front of the demon. Kyuubi had a slightly peeved look and was snarling and growling here and there. Damn monkeys. He cursed and heard Naruto asking for an explanation. Well, thanks to those fucking idiots, the technique disrupted. Had it be any other situation, Kyuubi probably would have died laughing as he saw Naruto's face. The Makai no Seki is a technique that is on a fine line between stable and catastrophic. While yokai is a hell a lot more potent than chakra ever will be, only a few shots of either energy could push it over the line. So you're saying those assholes disrupted the technique just by launching jutsus at the gate? Naruto said back and Kyuubi nodded at him. Naruto let out a frustrated sigh and crossed his arms. So what now? How the fuck are we going to get out of where the fuck are we anyways? Naruto asked after a moment. Well, seeing how the fact that you are still alive, we're not in limbo. So I guess we're somewhere in the transition world, a place that is pretty much the space between what's real and what's not. Seeing how he saw the vacant look the boy's eyes, he decided to dumb it down. We're in an imaginary world, nothing exists here. It's confusing, I know, but what matters here is trying to get the hell out. Naruto nodded after a while as he tried to process the new information on this plane of space. So any ideas now, genius? Kyuubi glared at the intended insult and huffed. It was silent for a few minutes as both tried to come up with an idea. The fox had his eyes closed in thought while Naruto sat down and looked at the water in his mind. What seemed to be an hour Naruto hopped with a brightened expression on his face. Oh. Why don't we do the same thing and recall upon the gates? He said hopefully and Kyuubi hummed in thought. The fox then shook his head in a negative fashion. Well, the idea was a good one, surprisingly, cue the glare Naruto aimed at the fox, it won't work. I doubt the seal will allow me to take control again, and giving your body more yokai than it can handle can end up being a bad idea. Unless he trailed off and got silent again. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. Unless what? Unless we could bypass the seal and hurry the fusion process. Naruto's face grew increasingly confused. The fox decided to elaborate, this seal was originally designed to slowly take away my power and convert into chakra for you to use. By the time you were 20 all my yokai would have been chakra for you. What would have happened to you by this time? Naruto asked and the Kyuubi growled softly. I probably would be dead of yokai depletion. He said and Naruto looked shocked. He and Kyuubi were not the best of friends, but if anybody knew Naruto better than himself, it would be the giant fox in front of him. Hell, well he won't ever dare speak or think about it, the fox grew on him very easily. Why would you want to speed up the fusion? Naruto asked honestly. He knew if anyone liked living more than anyone else, it was Kyuubi. To think that the fox would want to sacrifice his life just to get Naruto out of this place, it made Naruto admire to fox. Listen kid, I have lived for 2 millennia, one in Makai and one in Ninjenkai after my creation. I have had good memories, great memories and then bad ones. You, though, have lived for only 13 years, yet went through more shit monkeys half your age, haven't even dreamed of. Hell, even lesser demons would probably cringe at half the stuff you experience. Kyuubi said and Naruto said nothing and continued listening to the fox. Had this situation occurred about a year or two ago, I'll just probably let you rot here just for shits and giggles. You have pushed through all the odds with a smile on your face, and for that I'll allow you to speed up the fusion. He finished and Naruto snapped his head up showing the fox, the boy had been crying. Naruto shook and wiped away the tears before looked back at the saddened fox. No. There has to be another way. I'm not going to let someone who actually understands me die. He said in a tone of finality. Kyuubi's sad chuckles echoed throughout Naruto's mind. The boy was something else, and the fox felt his respect for the blonde to rise. I appreciate your concern, kid. However, there is no other way and you must escape this dreadful plane. The fox was grateful for Naruto's thoughtfulness and nudged his head towards the seal. Tear off the remainder of the seal, and the fusion will proceed. Don't worry brat, well it was only for a short term it was fun. Kyuubi chuckled and Naruto laughed sadly along with him. He walked up to the gate and with the help of the fox grabbed the seal. I hope to see you again, you asshole. Naruto said as tears scaled down his face. Kyuubi's eyes widened before a smile formed on his furred face. You too, you fucked shrimp. Naruto then ripped off the seal expecting to be covered by chakra, but was surprised when a lone hand grabbed his wrist and threw him away the cage. Naruto got up but found himself not to be in his mindscape but in a plain white room. There was no cage, no water, no Kyuubi, just white. Didn't think that I would see you this early. A voice rang out and Naruto immediately froze. He turned his head to see a slightly familiar figure. He was a fairly tall, fair-skinned man who had bright, blue eyes and spiky blonde hair, a shade darker than Naruto's. He had jaw-length bangs framing either side of his face and wore a standard Konohinin uniform with 2 bands each on both of his sleeves, a leaf green flak jacket, blue forehead protector, and blue sandals. Over his attire he wore a short-sleeved long white haori, decorated by orange flames on the bottom, with the kanji for yellow flash written vertically down the back and closed on the front by a thin orange rope. This was the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, the man that sealed the Kyuubi within Naruto. Naruto looked in slight awe at the man who known to be one of the strongest ninja ever to grace the earth. The boy shook out of his trance and looked wearily at the supposed deceased Hokage. What's going on? One moment I'm saying my goodbyes to the fox and now I'm in front of the Yondaime. Minato smirked at Naruto. Well, to explain my appearance, when I sealed the Kyuubi within you, I made sure to seal part of my soul with it. After all, what kind of father would I be if I couldn't see my son grown up? However, I was hoping to see you a little later in life." He finished and Naruto's eyes widened. The boy looked down on the ground with clenched fist, his hair shadowing his eyes. Minato's smirk disappeared when Naruto's fist made its way to the Hokage's stomach. He doubled over in pain as Naruto began to yell at him. "What kind of fucking father are you? You sealed a fucking demon within me. Want to know what that did? Ruin my whole fucking childhood." Naruto had tears that scaled down his face, while Minato had a shocked look to his. "I should fucking hate you with all my might." Minato winced and looked down at this. "But hadn't it been for you, I would have never met Tsunade-bachan or Iro-sensei. I'll probably never had met and befriended Kyuubi." Naruto slightly calmed down and wiped away the tears that slowly came back as he vented. "I met and fought through tough obstacles in my life that even Kyuubi said would crush a lesser demon." Naruto was then engulfed in a fatherly hug by Minato, who had a tear fall down his face. Naruto was unresponsive for a few minutes before he wrapped his arm around his father. "My son, Naruto, I'm truly sorry for the pain I had caused you. I understand if you hate me, but when I sealed Kyuubi within you, I knew you were going to go far. I trusted no one else with this great deal of power than my own son." Naruto was once again shocked as his father proclaimed how much he trusted him. They broke the hug and Minato placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "I thought the villagers would be smarter than this, but I guess I had too much faith in them. I pray to Kami, they get what's coming to them. Had your mother been alive, I'm sure there would be no villagers left," he said with a slight chuckle. What happened to her, Tusan? Is she in here too?" Naruto said slowly, not really used to the word father, being an orphan and all. Minato hummed in thought. "She should be here as we both sealed part of our souls in here," he said. Just then the white room seemed to waver before turning into a rainbow-colored room. Naruto was a little peeved while Minato raised an eyebrow. They both heard a thump and a yelp that followed with it. Turning around, both males found a sight that made them both crumble to the ground in laughter. The great and powerful Kyuubi no Kitsune, whose size had decreased to one of a small horse, was being bopped on the head by a very attractive and beautiful red-haired woman. She had a slender but feminine build, creamy fair skin, deep violet eyes, and fiery red hair with strands that framed both sides of her face, and a black clip that parts her hair to the left, keeping it out of her eyes. She wore a blue high-collared, sleeveless blouse under a green long, loose-fitting dress. She also wore a black wristband on her left wrist and black shinobi sandals. This woman was Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, wife to Minato and mother to Naruto. She in fact is probably the only woman, well person, who can make the strongest of the Biju cower like a newborn kitten. But in Kyuubi's opinion she is a monster behind a cute smile. Of course he'll never say this out loud in fear of being bopped. Ubaka. Her voice was angelic and could make anyone, man or woman, cream their pants. The fox had an eye, tears raining down his head and place a clawed hand, paw, on his head. "How dare you treat my baby boy like that?" Naruto immediately stopped laughing and stared at the woman. Kushina noticed she and the fox were not alone and turned to see her husband and her only son. Her eyes softened immensely and practically ran over to the two only to glump the confused boy. "Sachi-kun. Oh, just look how you've grown up. A little short but that just amplifies your cuteness, I bet you have so many girls after you." Naruto struggled to breathe and heard the snickers coming from the fox. "I think Naruto is running out air," Minato pointed out with a smile. Kushina held a confused face before realizing what Minato had said and quickly let go of the boy. She smiled sheepishly as Naruto tried to gain much needed air back into his lungs. "Hasan," he said after regaining his breath. Kushina nodded to him and was hugged tightly by an in-tears Naruto. She smiled softly as Naruto pressed into her more, not caring about anything else or a smirking Kyuubi. They broke apart and Naruto once again wiped away the tears. Kyuubi smirked as he couldn't let this opportunity go. "First time having tits in your face, brat." He laughed as Naruto gained a blush on his face. This made the fox laugh harder and fell on the ground holding his stomach. Naruto glared before an aura passed over him and slowly backed away from the fox, Minato doing the same. Kyuubi did not see the eerie shadow till it was too late. He snapped, his eyes opened only to receive a foot to the face by a very angry Kushina. "How dare you speak to my Sachi-kun in such a lewd manner?" Kyuubi upped and lowered his head hoping to avoid the beating. Kushina stomped her way over but was stopped by Minato, who had an amused expression on his face. "As much as it would be entertaining to see the Kyuubi get pummeled by you, we don't have much time left," Minato said, and mood shifted to a more serious one. Kyuubi nodded and got up and looked at Naruto. "I understand you wish to speed up the fusion process in order to escape the plane, right?" Minato asked. Naruto nodded and Minato sighed. There was a reason why the fusion was supposed to be slow and gradual over time. Kyuubi's chakra, or rather yokai, is very potent and dense, your body as it is now wouldn't accept the foreign chakra so quickly and suddenly. Naruto's eyes widened and looked down at his body. So taking off the seal was a bad idea. He concluded, and it was Kyuubi who spoke this time. Not necessarily, had it been any other ninja, their body would explode from the amount of yokai trying to fight the chakra. Naruto's eyes practically popped out of his head as his breathing picked up. Kyuubi just rolled his eyes at the boy's reaction. "Calm down, brat, thanks to your Uzumaki heritage, that wouldn't happen to you." Naruto took a relaxed breath, he suddenly became interested about hearing his heritage. "My heritage?" Kushina walked forward with a loving smile on her face. "Yes, Sachi-kun, as in Uzumaki you are gifted with quite a few things. One is longevity, meaning our lifespans are quite high for humans, and our huge chakra reserves. However, unlike me, you have been gifted with the ability to take in 2 chakra sources without much haste. The only other person to have this ability was Mito Bachan." She finished and Naruto had an amazed look on his face. "That's why Toussaint sealed Kyuubi within me, right?" Naruto said, and Minato smiled before nodding. "So what's actually going to happen to me as of now? As we speak, your body is trying to adjust to having 2 chakra storages. Because you're taking in my yokai, your body is changing into what we demons call a Hanyu." He gained a confused look from Minato and Naruto, while Kushina placed a hand on her chin. "A Hanyu? Ah. You mean half-demon. Mito Bachan used to tell me tales of demon who had human mates. Their children were born with the normal features of a human, but the power of a demon, sometimes it would be reversed." Kushina said, and Kyuubi nodded at her. "Yes, however the brat is going to become a Hanyu through artificial means, so we have no idea what he may turn out. Hell, he could be a pile of shit." Kyuubi said with a chuckle before he crumbled down from Kushina's glare. "Had the brat have had all of my power, he would have turned into a full-fledged demon." "You mean this is not all your power?" Naruto asked, and the Kyuubi shook his head at him. "Let me guess, Toussaint sealed it away somewhere." Minato sheepishly chuckled and scratched the back of his head. Naruto now knew where he got that from. "You're a smart kid. Too bad no one in that village saw it like that," Minato said solemnly and then looked down at his hands. "And it seems our time is up." Kushina teared up before hugging Naruto once again. Minato joined at the hug while Naruto cried at having his first and last family hug. "Sachi-kun, I don't know where you might head, but know we will always be proud of you." She sniffed out. Kyuubi just laid back on his hunches while watching the heartwarming scene, not that he'll ever admit it. They broke apart and Minato laid a faded hand on his son's shoulder. "Train hard so that when we met again we can have a good all-spar," he said while smirking before getting bopped on the head by Kushina. Naruto sadly laughed at his parents' antics as they faded away. Before they truly left, Kushina said one more thing that made Naruto blush and Kyuubi grin. "Find some nice girls and make me some grandbabies." Then they were gone. Naruto looked over to see Kyuubi, who was also fading. "Cheer up, brat. This may not be the last time we met," Kyuubi said before he too disappeared. The rainbow room broke like glass, placing Naruto back into the plane, and he felt power surge within him. He was overwhelmed with it as black crept into his vision. Digital world. Seraphimon Castle. Guarding what seems to be a rainbow-tinted castle was a creature that looked to be 4 foot with brown hair covered by a blue witch hat. Matching the hat was a cape with symbols inside and a high collar. The creature had pants which looked like they had a face on the knees. To top it all, he also had brown gloves, brown boots, and a staff. Sorcererman was doing his usual job of guarding the castle of his master, Seraphimon. A boring job it is, but he was very damn determined in making sure his master was well protected. He sighed as he kicked a pebble, his staff leaning lazily on his shoulders. "I wish something exciting would happen. An invasion or an ambush, hell, a simple visitor would be better than this," he thought as his gaze went to the cloudless sky. Suddenly a twinkle caught his eyes, and Sorcererman turned to see a dot that was approaching his area very fast. His eyes widened as the strange object crashed several yards and looked at the castle, then the crater the object caused. "Just had to say something," he thought sarcastically to himself before slowly walking up to the crater with his staff ready. Naruto groaned as he lifted himself from his self-made crater, his tail was stiff and aching to be stretched. "Wait." Naruto's eyes snapped open and looked behind him, and waving proudly was a thick and bushy vermilion tail with an orange tip. He carefully looked down and, not seeing himself covered in fur, sighed in relief. He felt his head, seeing things were normal, except the furred ears that were at the top of his head. The newly made Hanyu sighed in annoyance. "Great, now I got a fucking tail and ears." He looked around the area hoping to get some sense of familiarity or at least get some bearings. "Just perfect. I don't where the hell I am," he exclaimed, rubbing his temple. "Well, that not a first for you." A deep yet sarcastic voice rang out in his mind and Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. "Yes, I know it's a surprise for me too. Thought I was dead, only to hear your ass complaining." Naruto was internally relieved that he wasn't in this alone and that his friend was alive somewhat. "But how are you alive? I thought I took most of your." Naruto couldn't finish his memories he don't remember having, assaulted his head. "Arg," he set out in pain as places, battles, people he never met suddenly become familiar to him. Techniques and jutsus rammed into his head and the Hanyu was forced to kneel in pain. Iwubi just hummed in thought before facepalming while muttering baka to himself. The memories slowly stopped along with the pain and Naruto painfully gasped. What the fuck was that, he said, and then held his head as a shock of pain streaked across his forehead. Well, congratulations, brat. You have just earned 2 millennia worth of knowledge and memories from no other than yours truly. He chuckled out and Naruto felt the need to kick the beast's ass. As for your earlier question, it seemed that the yondaime intended for my soul to stay within you. Fitting, seems how I can't die until you do. We are tied tighter than we originally thought. Naruto had finally pushed the pain behind before standing up again. So I'm pretty much stuck with you? The boy, now Hanyu, heard a rustle behind him and turned around to see a short creature who looked pretty hostile. State your reason for trespassing. The creature said while pointed his staff at Naruto. The former Jinchuriki decided to play it smart and held up his hands in a surrender fashion. Sorcererman raised an eyebrow at Naruto's appearance but lowered his staff a bit. Naruto seeing this mentally sighed. Listen before you try and attack me, just hear me out a bit. Sorcererman weighed his options before placing his staff at his side and nodded at Naruto. Alright, my name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto and as you probably saw fell out the sky. Now I don't know where the hell I am or the inhabitants that live here. I'm just looking for help. Smooth talking, kid. Kyuubi grunted out. Shut the fuck up, hairball, Naruto thought back with irritation clear in his tone. Sorcererman narrowed his eyes in suspicion, oblivious to Naruto's internally conversation. The Digimon could do one of two things. He could move the stranger along on his way into an unknown world, as he says, or be a good Samaritan. Seeing how he was raised by the good-hearted Seraphiman, Sorcererman decided to help the stranger called Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Strange name. Follow me, Namikaze-san. Sorcererman said as he began to walk back to the castle. Naruto stared wide eyes at his back, not thinking that the creature was going to help him. Sorcererman turned around to see Naruto just standing there before he shook his head and ran up to the smaller creature. Thank you, Naruto trailed on. Sorcererman. Thank you, Sorcererman. Chapter 3. Fuck reading. So you're telling me that I landed in some strange world filled with these creatures called Digimon. A nod was directed at the Hanyu. These Digimons have energy within them that can allow them to do special attacks and are placed in a ranking system that depends on their skill level. Naruto got another nod and continued processing the new information. Digimons can evolve whenever they have reached a maximum limit in their current state. He finally finished. Sorcererman once again nodded and Naruto sighed. What the fuck did I bring myself into? He muttered to himself, but Sorcererman paid no attention to him. In fact, the Digimon's eyes were looking at his waving bushy tail. Naruto saw this and coughed to get the Digimon's attention. Sorry, Namikaze-san, it is just that I have never seen a Digimon like you before. Tell me, are you the first of your kind? Sorcererman asked and Naruto raised an eyebrow at him. Kyuubi on the other hand snorted in amusement in Naruto's head. Funny, he thinks you're one of them. So are you going to tell him or keep him in the dark? The fox said. Not that you should care about what he thinks of you, after all, his opinions don't matter. He grunted out and while Naruto rolled his eyes at him, the fox did have a point. Call me Naruto, Namikaze-san is my father and I'm not anywhere near his level yet. As for my condition, I am a Hanyu, which just means half demon is my language. He saw the confused look on Sorcererman, but rather not elaborate as he was shit-faced tired from the events of today. Listen, while I know you have many questions, I'm tired as hell and would just love to get some sort of rest. Sorcererman stopped all the questions that he was going to ask and got up from his sit. I see then. We'll talk more tomorrow. As for resting arrangements, follow me. He said and Naruto nodded and followed after the smaller Digimon. As they were walking, Naruto couldn't help but be in awe at the castle. The decorations were practically royalty made and the rainbow-tinted walls just boosted the regal look. Wow, this place must have cost a fortune to build. He thought then looked at the back of Sorcererman who was oblivious to the Hanyu's thoughts. He doesn't neither look like royalty nor act like a noble. No doubt he is a servant of some sort. Kyuubi silently praised Naruto's observation and hummed in thought. If that's the case then who is his master? He said and Naruto mentally shrugged. Who knows, might get to see him tomorrow. Naruto said as Sorcererman finally stopped at a closed door. Opening it, Naruto was greeted by a room about as big as his apartment. Oh yeah, defiantly royalty. He thought. The room wasn't so bad as there was a queen-size bed covered in a royal purple satin sheet, a night table that stood next to the bed, a huge-ass wardrobe, a full-size mirror next to the wardrobe, and a bathroom in the far right corner. There's clothing in the wardrobe since yours is. Naruto raised an eyebrow before looking down and blushing a few shades of red. He didn't notice that his current outfit was nothing but strings and patches of fabric when he first landed. Kyuubi, on the other hand, knew and started to laugh. Sorcererman nodded and closed the door, leaving Naruto to his embarrassment and the fox's laughter. Haha. You were about to go streaking around this new world. Oh shit, my ribs. Naruto's right eye twitched in annoyance and mumbled about assholes and foxes. Ignoring the laughter in his head, Naruto walked over to the wardrobe and opened it. Show stacks upon stacks of clothing. Naruto's jaw practically hit the ground while Kyuubi whistled. Well damn, never thought I see so many clothes in one place. Naruto just nodded dumbly before retreated to the bathroom for a much needed shower. Standing in front of the mirror, Naruto finally got a good look at his body. His height shot up from its 5'1" frame to a surprising 5'8". His body build seemed to increase from his skinny shape to that of an athletic sprinter. There were highlights in his wet hair that were the same color of his tail and ears, a brilliant vermilion. His whiskers seemed to have darkened and grown, and well as his nails and canine. This gave him feral look, and it was no wonder that Sorcererman was hostile at first. He grinned at his new body and looked into the mountain of clothes. After finding a pair of shorts to sleep in, Naruto laid down on the surprisingly soft bed and prepared to go into dreamland. He then felt a tug on his mind and found himself to be in front of the once great Kyuubi. His mindscape went from its oar-like area to that of a meadow. He didn't question it and took a good look at the fox. Gone was his enormous frame, and in its place was a fox about the size of a bear. Naruto couldn't help but to smirk, and Kyuubi growled, knowing why the boy was smirking. His smirk disappeared as he gazed at two colored orbs that were in front of the fox. One was an icy blue color, and Naruto felt very familiar to it. The other orb was an angry blood red borderline crimson, and Naruto felt hatred and anger off of it. Yet he also had a sense of familiarity from it. Kyuubi coughed to get the Hanyu's attention. Well, now that you're done glaring at the orbs, we can talk business regarding everything that has and will happen to you. He smirked as that seemed to get the boy's attention. Well, as you noticed, you're not a pile of shit like I predicted before, so good job. Naruto glared at the fox, who ignored it. Instead, the transformation went off mostly without a hitch. But tell me, kid, do you remember anything gained from my memories? Naruto closed his eyes in concentration, trying to do as Kyuubi asked. Getting nothing, he snapped his eyes open and shook his head in disbelief. I don't understand. If you had asked me the same question a few hours ago, I would have told you without hesitation. But now I can't even remember the last time you ate something. Well, it seems like from the amount of memories I had, your subconscious must have blocked you from accessing it in order to save you from any brain damage. Kyuubi informed. So receiving your memories was pretty much useless. Naruto stated with an annoyed growl. Well, he did expect something to go wrong. After all, not everything went perfectly with him. Kyuubi, however, shook his head. No, from what it looks like, you will gradually gain them all as your mind relaxes with age. So don't get too surprised if you have a random flashback or remember something out of the blue. Now to talk about your new body and where you stand in terms of power. This made Naruto giddy and grin cheekily at the fox. Kyuubi just saw this and rolled his eyes. Seeing how you got my power and my memories, it's only fitting you were turned into a kitsune hybrid. Though I am surprised you have one tail already. Naruto sat down on the grass and Kyuubi laid down as well as he explained to Naruto. Shouldn't I have more tails since I took all of your power? Naruto said as his tail waved around to be laid down in his lap. He ran a hand through the fur and was shocked at how soft the fur felt. Technically, you took half of my full power. Kyuubi mumbled out and Naruto chose not to respond. Anyway, you don't have all 9 tails, or at least more than one, because like my memories, they're stored away. Unlike my memories, you can gain more tails anytime you wish, granted if you have the power control for it. Kyuubi said and Naruto smirked. Or training. He said in a hopeful tone and the beast nodded at him. Naruto was excited at the thought of training with this new power, but a thought crossed his head. So exactly how strong am I? Kyuubi hummed in thought. Well, I don't know exactly your power level, but I guess around a high chunin. Naruto jumped in the air in happiness and Kyuubi grunted to let the boy know he wasn't done. Don't know why you're happy, brat. You are a half-demon, therefore you now go by demon standards. A chunin is nothing but a newborn whelp in Makai. In other words, you're pretty weak compared to most demons. Naruto's jaw dropped and Kyuubi let out a chuckle. Just when I thought shit was clear for me, Kami just had to rain more shit on my parade. Naruto cried out as a rain cloud formed over his hung head. Kyuubi didn't know whether to laugh at the Hanyu's lack of luck or sweat drop at his reaction. Don't worry, Brad, I have an idea that hopefully lowered that gap for you. But on another note, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but I have felt another presence in your mind. Naruto felt peeved at that, but Kyuubi managed to speak again before the boy had a chance to freak out. It seemed to have disappeared for now. It's probably something from the seal. Naruto calmed a bit after hearing that and looked at the 2 orbs. I'm guessing that one, he pointed at the blue orb, must be my chakra, and that, this time he pointed at the red orb, is my yakai. Kyuubi grunted in agreement and they both watched in fascination as the orbs levitated in the air for a moment before shooting up in the air and expanding. By the time both orbs were done, it looked like Naruto Mindscape had 2 different colored moons that stood opposite of each other and seemed to shadow both of their sides respectively. Naruto's yokai shadow seemed to be pushing at his chakra and gaining ground. Strange. Kyuubi said and Naruto looked at him. Both sides seem to be a representation of your energy input. Since you're in your Hanyu form you are drawing more yokai than chakra. Interesting indeed. Now about your training, we are going to do some mental training so you can easily unlock more of my memories, making it easier to control your yokai. Mental training? Naruto asked, seeing how the only mental training he has ever done is figuring how to eat scorching hot ramen without flinching and giving into the pain. Yes, mental training, but knowing you, this may be a huge headache mainly for me. Naruto felt an eyebrow twitching and quickly threw a pebble at the fox's snout. Kyuubi yelped and held on to his aching nose before glaring at Naruto. Oh, I'm going to enjoy kicking your ass. He thought before continuing his explanation. Despite common belief, demons do practice the art of mediation. Mediation? Naruto said slowly while crossing his arms. Is that before or after you destroy something? Naruto smirked at the look of irritation that flashed on the demon's face. He then sighed knowing he had to get a little serious. Alright, what about physical training? Do I still go by human standards? Kyuubi tapped a claw on his chin. Well, your physical attributes have been upped, so I suppose you can do ninja training, just have to make it 3 times as hard. Naruto felt some of the color drain from his face, and Kyuubi laughed. Now, as you know, time in the mindscape goes faster than time in reality. So we will use this to our advantage to up your mental capacity. Any questions before we begin your training? Yeah, just one. How the hell are we going to do this? Naruto asked and Kyuubi gave him a sinister grin. Next morning, Naruto awoke with a groan while holding on to his aching head. Fuck you, Kyuubi. He mumbled out while groggily getting out of the comfy bed. Oh, build a boat and cry me a fucking river, you little shit. Kyuubi said, clearly liking the previous night's training. Naruto however had a splitting headache that he felt was healing and decided to get ready instead of arguing with the demon. After showering, the boy took the time to observe his body, clearly happy by the fusion's results. He even went as far as posing a few times, not knowing Kyuubi was watching and snickering quietly to himself, filing this away for later blackmail. The Hanyu once again opened the huge-ass wardrobe, hoping to find something to his liking. After minutes of rumbling through the pile, he settled on a crimson wife-beater with a sleeveless leather jacket with a hood. He wore a pair black cargo pants with many pockets with red and black sneakers. Combined with his feral features, he thought he looked quite badass, which Kyuubi snorted at. More like a dumbest to me. He said, and Naruto internally glared at the fox, hoping the beast could at least feel it. I heard that, you asshole. He thought, knowing that talking out loud could earn himself a few questions and stares. Never whispered it. The fox said almost mockingly, and Naruto took a deep breath. Both grew quiet as the both felt a fairly large energy signature down the hall, in the dining room. Might be the master of this castle. Kyuubi concluded, and Naruto silently agreed with him, slowly picking up the pace. Soon he walked into the dining room that had a large table that can easily fit 10 people and had set number of chairs around it. The sun rays bounced off the walls in the room from an open window, giving the room a rainbow tint to it. Various plants were placed all over, making the place look that much more exotic and gave the room a pleasant earth smell. Looking over, Naruto saw a sorcererman standing next to a figure that may have been the power source he and Kyuubi may have sensed. The figure was dressed in blue and silver holy armor. Their head was hidden by a blue helmet that had a narrow 4-pointed star in the shape of a cross. The helmet had 2 small silver wings on the place where their ear would be. To complete the look, the figure had 10 golden wings, 5 on each side. Ah, so you must be the young fellow that sorcererman had found. Yet you don't seem to be like those humans from the world parallel from us or any newly Digimon I have encountered. Am I right? The unknown Digimon stated while sitting in the main head chair in the front of the room. Naruto nodded, slightly surprised by his observation, and sat down on his right. While sorcererman bowed and quickly went to the kitchen to fetch breakfast, Naruto decided this was the time to get so answers. My name is Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, but call me Naruto. No doubt you are the owner of this castle, thus can answer my more elaborate questions. The angel-like Digimon nodded at the Hanyu. Well then, since introductions are in play, you may call me Seraphimon, one of 3 of the legendary celestial Digimon. Now Naruto-san, in order to answer all of your questions, you must answer one of mine. Smart. Naruto thought while Kyuubi just huffed and nodded. Seraphimon. Alright, I'll humor you. He said, already prepared for the question Seraphimon will ask. Thank you, if you don't mind me asking, what are you, Naruto-san? The Mega asked, and while he was covered in armor, Naruto could practically see the confusion showing through. By birth, I was originally a human. However, due to certain circumstances, I had to forego half of my humanity to become what my people call a Hanyu or half-demon. He said, mentally smiling at his answer. Seraphimon hummed for a few seconds, while Naruto gave him an indifferent look. Ah yes, I have heard of your kind. Naruto raised a single blonde eyebrow, now clearly interested. During my days as a rookie, reading was a pastime for me. My caretaker, Digimon, had a small collection of exotic books, most of them fell from the human through something called a data portal. While scurrying through I found a book called A World Parallel from Us. Now I won't bore you, but it did talk about demons and anything related to them. Naruto eyes narrowed a bit and mentally poked the fox. You hearing this? Kyuubi growled in agreement. Yeah, I forgot that Makai is not a limited world. That place gets souls from all over, though I am surprised that an Injin was able to write a book about us. He stopped. We need to see that book. Naruto nodded and quickly focused back on the real world. I'm sure you want to see this book, am I right? Seraphimon called out and while not showing it Naruto was surprised. The Mega chuckled and looked over to see Sorcererman bringing out the food. Shall we finish this after a light breakfast? A deep rumbling sound echoed in the dining room. Naruto chuckled in embarrassment and scratched the back of the head. Yeah, breakfast. 35 minutes later, the Kitsune Hanyu. Well that does explain the tails and ears, but why? Seraphimon asked as he and Naruto walked to his library. Naruto shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Well seeing how I had a powerful demon fox lord sealed in me, it's only fitting that I changed to a fox hybrid. He said, not really caring that the Mega knew of his past status. The Mega looked down at the Hanyu as they stopped at a double door. Sealed. How could such a thing be possible? He asked before walking in and Naruto followed. The blonde stopped and looked around the huge library with slight awe and amazement. There were books upon books everywhere. Seraphimon chuckled at his face and coughed to get the boy's attention. Anything is practically possible in my world. Sealing a huge beast like Kyuubi, while was deadly, can be done, granted if you had the power for it. Naruto said with awe in his voice before following the Mega. Is this guy a collector or what? He thought. Stopping at a back shelf the Digimon reached in and brought out 2 books, along with a type of box behind it. The first book was brown and big, covered in dust showing Naruto how old the book was. The second book was a little smaller and was a sickly purple. The cover was a goat skull with a set of pitch black bat wings behind it. The box was small and circular with a mixture of black and crimson in a swirling motion. The first book has been with me ever since I was made into the Celestial 3. In this book holds all the information on the 10 legendary warriors that saved the digital world from an evil Digimon named Lucimon. However, only Ancient Greymon and Ancient Garurumon survived in the end to seal the Dark Angel away. Then their spirits scattered all over the digital world, thought never to be awakened again. Seraphimon proclaimed with a grim tone. Naruto couldn't help but frown at the story, but knew they died at a good cause. I suppose that's the book on my kind. He pointed at the other book and Seraphimon nodded and handed both books to him. He then looked at the box. So what's with the box? Seraphimon looked at the box and opened it showing Naruto a device. The device was about the size of his hand, if not a little bit bigger, and had screen in the middle with 3 buttons below it. 2 of the buttons were the size of his thumb and the third button below them was smaller. It had a button on the side of the device with the colors being black and crimson. This device is called a Digivis, more precisely, a detector made by my fellow celestial Digimon, a Fanfiction. She gave it to me as a gift for some unknown reason. Nevertheless I don't know where she put the other 9 at. It can be used to talk to communicate with detectors, the creator of the Digivis, and used as a compass and radar function. However the other reason I'm giving it to you is because it can be used to scan, purify, and then digitize fractal codes. Also it could probably help find the lost spirits. Seraphimon finished with a serious tone. Naruto took the detector out the box and held it in his hand. Fractal codes. Why give me, a stranger, something powerful and obviously valuable not knowing my true intentions? Hell I could use this to my evil gain. Why trust me? Naruto asked not knowing Seraphimon's true intentions. The armored Mega laughed as he held his stomach. Naruto felt an eyebrow twitching as his laugh reminded him too much of Kyuubi's when the fox was questioning his intelligence. If only Digimons were more observant like you, lad. He then placed a hand on the Hanyu's shoulder. I am a Digimon that is based on the holy right of God. I know a good soul when I see one. Naruto made to protest, but the Mega already beat it to him. Despite you being a Hanyu, I can see you are not a malicious being. Naruto closed his mouth and nodded while pocketing the device and placing both books under his arm. Thanks, I guess. I promise your judgment won't be in vain, Seraphimon-san. The holy Digimon nodded and led Naruto out of the library. I know you wish to begin your journey, so I won't stop any decisions you may make. The Digimon said and Naruto hummed in thought. What do you think I should do? He asked Kyuubi. Fox, in question, merely grunted lazily. I say, stay for the night. It'll give us more time to assess the current situation and time to read those books. Naruto nodded at the fox before looking back at Seraphimon. I'll stay for the night. Might as well get a little reading in. He said shrugging and the Mega nodded. Well I'll let you be off then, if you have any further questions, I'll be in my study room. And with that the Mega left. Naruto then sighed tiredly. Man, I fucking hate reading. Next day, I guess this is goodbye for now Naruto-san. Sorcererman said like having someone to talk to while Seraphimon couldn't help but nod. Naruto gave the two a somewhat sad smile as they have helped more than what most people did back home. For that he was grateful. "I be sure to stop by on my travels, Kami knows you could use the company, Sorcererman." Naruto then chuckled sheepishly, "No offense to you Seraphimon." The tall Digimon only chuckled and nodded. Seraphimon then walked over to Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. "No offense taken, lad, but be careful for there are not many friendly Digimon like us. Also keep a lookout for I have a feeling something is going to go wrong in the future." Naruto nodded and started to walk south towards the next Closet village. Seraphimon and Sorcererman watched Naruto walk till he disappeared over the horizon. "Master?" Sorcererman chimed out and Seraphimon turned towards him. "Why do I have this certain feeling of dread? In some sort of chamber." A dark chuckle was heard in a room of complete darkness. The sounds of chain rattling echoed out of the chamber as a figure slowly stretched to get rid of 100 years of stiffness. The chains were wrapped tightly around its neck, wrist and ankles, pinning it to the wall. Yet it didn't seem phased as it grinned showing a pair elongated canine. "It seems I've been awoken." Suddenly a perfect view of the digital world popped in front of it. "It won't be long before I'm freed. Am I right Naruto-kun, or should I say my gateway to freedom?" The figure moved towards the only available light source to show blonde hair and a set of angel and demonic wings. "With Naruto, achoo." Naruto sneezed, "I think someone is talking about me." "I think you actually believe in something so stupid. Just get your tumbus moving." Kyuubi responded with an annoyed tone. Naruto mentally rolled his eyes but did agree to Kyuubi about moving faster, so Naruto took to the trees. "Kyuubi, did you found that mysterious presence yet?" Naruto asked. Kyuubi just let out a tired sigh and replied back, "No, I can't feel even a fucking burst. It's like it just van kid duck." Kyuubi yelled. Naruto did as Kyuubi said and ducked under an ice ball that would have knocked his head right off his shoulders. "Heh, your attack missed. See, this is why I always go first." Came a deep voice that sounded more like Kyuubi's own animalistic voice. "Your attack would have missed too." Another voice yelled back to the first one but sounded more cold than anything. "Will you two stop your damn bickering and let's get this Digimon?" The third voice stated irritability. Naruto looked up to see 3 Digimon. They were all tall and had large canines that stuck outwards from their teeth. One was green and had long white hair with 2 large horns sticking out of its forehead. It had on nothing but a black shorts and wore both a red wristband on its right arm and left leg, as well as an arm bracer on its left arm and right leg. It also had femur bone of some sort of Digimon. The Digimon on its right looked the same with the same weapons, except its skin was brown with a tiger stripe outfit. It also was missing the 2 forehead horns. The Digimon on the green one's left wore exactly the outfit that the green Digimon wore, except its skin was blue and its weapon of choice was an ice-like club. Naruto looked at them with narrowed eyes and asked them, "What do you want with me?" The Digimon stopped their talking and looked back at Naruto. The green one was the one to reasoned, "You don't look like any Digimon we've seen, but you might have a good bounty on your head, since newly made Digimon have quite the coin." Naruto raised an eyebrow before coming to realization. "Damn tail." He thought to himself. "So we gonna give you a choice, either come with us peacefully." The blue Digimon said following the green one's lead. "Or we beat you till the verge of death and then take you." The brown one stated arrogantly and Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. "Wonder what should I do?" He thought and Kyuubi understood what he meant. "Try your hand you form for now to see how stable you are." The beast spoke and Naruto nodded to him and then spoke to the Digimons. "How about this, either leave me alone or I'll beat your ugly asses to oblivion. That is if you can get any uglier." He said while going into a stance. "Why you fucking brat, I'll show you a beat down, evil hurricane." The red one threw a mini hurricane from his club at Naruto. The blonde hopped in the air ready to send a punch down when a memory popped into his head. Memories. Naruto looked around and found himself in front of a red-furred and green-skinned monkey with the body type of a gorilla. His yellower eyes with a white pupil were glaring at him. His mouth was curved into a snarl as his blunt canines showed along with most of his teeth. His 4 tails were waving mildly, their spike-like protrusions wanting to slam into him. "I'll show you who's the weaker one, Kurama." Just like his appearance, the voice was gruff. "Kurama," Naruto thought and found himself laughing, but instead of his voice, it sounded like Kyuubi's. "Do you think anything has changed, Goku? You are nothing compared to me." Naruto said but also didn't say, like he was controlled. Goku growled before charging at him with a battle yell. Naruto found himself opening his jaw and let loose a Yokai beam. Real world. Naruto quickly snapped out of his trance and opened his mouth. He felt a searing heat in his mouth that, strangely, didn't hurt. He looked at his opponents and let loose his attack. Yokai Kausen. A dark red beam shot out of his mouth and slammed into the ground between the 3 Digimon, causing an explosion that sent them flying. However, Naruto was hit by the backlash and slammed into the ground. Ow, what the fuck was that? He groaned while rubbing his throat and immediately felt exhausted. He quickly dodged the club strike and managed to punch Green one in the face. The Green cried out in pain as he flew away and swore he lost a tooth. The cry of throwing ice was heard from Naruto's right and cartwheeled out of the way from the huge ice ball. Naruto then quickly turned around and laid a hard kick to the red Digimon's knee that sent him to ground in pain and landed a roundhouse kick to his face. The kick sent him colliding with the blue Digimon. The green Digimon came from behind the trees furious at the hit Naruto gave him. Why you fucking brat. I was gonna kill you nice and quickly, but now I'm gonna make it painful and slow. Pummel whack. The green Digimon fired out dark energy from his fist towards Naruto. The Hanyu's eyes widened a bit before he moved away in a flash of speed. The attack hit the ground and the green Digimon growled in frustration. Naruto then appeared several feet in front of them, clearly getting quite tired if his panting isn't an indication. The Digimons nodded to each and scattered only to reappear surrounding Naruto. The Digimons then powered up their attacks. Try to dodge this, you blonde hair bastard. The red one cried out. Throwing ice. Evil hurricane. Humble whack. A large dust cloud was formed from the attacks along with an explosion. The once grass and treeful area was now nothing more than stumps and dirt. The blue Digimon then steps forward to the cloud. Did we get him? Not quite. A voice said behind him. The blue Digimon didn't even get a chance to turn around before a red beam covered his vision and everything went dark. Naruto looked surprised that the blue Digimon dissolved into data then scattered in the air. Interesting, Naruto thought with a calculative look. Hyogamon. Naruto turned to see the red Digimon looking at him in anger but the green one looking at him in fear. Let's go, Fugamon. We'll be back for you. And with that they both ran into forest. Naruto sighed and sat down on the forest floor. Whew, that was tiring. He said before passing out. Kyuubi chuckled to himself. So it seems I was right about you randomly retrieving my memories. Didn't think you'd trigger one in the middle of a fight. It seemed he was speaking to himself as the only reply he got Naruto was a snore. Wonder if you'll achieve more when dreaming, it'll certainly make your mental training twice as easy. His thought then went to the fight as he gauged Naruto's skill, demon-wise. You don't have enough control over your yokai, making yokai kausen, a tiring technique. He hummed to himself before grinning. Oh, I think training just got more fun for me, of course. His evil laughter echoed throughout the Hanyu's mind. I'm Skip. 4 years later, Oromoto was not having a good year at all. First, her parents decided to finally move back to Japan from Italy just as she was about to finish her junior year. This made a huge impact in her friend circle, in fact she lost most if not all of her friends. She thought making friends in her so-called home country would be easier, but due to her living in Europe and learning its customs for 14 years, it pretty much set it up a cultural barrier. So making friends in Japan was a work in progress that was not actually processing anywhere. Then her damn phone started to ring. It told her to go to the train station that practically kidnapped and led her into a new world filled with these strange creatures called Digimon. Oh, how she wished that'll be the end, but yet again fate is a bitch. Not only is she stuck here in this strange world, she's stuck with 3 boys and 2 smaller Digimon. Between the boys, one likes to run off in random fucking places, leaving the group alone. Let's add on the fact that he's probably the only strong one, since he can turn into a fucking Digimon. One does nothing but hits on her and is quite arrogant. All he really does is annoy the flying shit out her. The last boy is a huge of a crybaby, but at least she can handle him. Bad year indeed. You can say that the only good thing that came out of this clusterfuck of a mess was that she got to be a Digimon and kiss some Digi ass. Until the said Digi ass digivolved into Woodmon and handed her ass back on a platter. Koji came to save the day yet again, showing how so bad as he is. Kami, he's almost as bad as JP's boasting. Zoe just sighed and ran her hand through her long blonde hair. She knows she was beautiful and so couldn't exactly put all the blame on JP. He was just being a warm-blooded human male. The baby blue shorts she wore just stopped at her mid-thigh, showing long luscious legs to the world. Her C-cup tits trained against her striped blue and white t-shirt that stopped above her navel. Over it she wore a purple vest that came to her hips and was open. Her heart-shaped face was one to do a double take. Her forest green eyes showed annoyance and curiosity with a hint of loneliness. Her long blonde hair reached to her hip looking like a golden waterfall from behind. She had a cute little nose and her beautiful kissable lips were twisted into a frown. You know, you can at least ask if we're okay. Geez, no need to such it to everybody. Zoe said, irritated by Koji's attitude as he finished, reverted back to his human form and started to walk away. She resisted the urge to say a couple of not so nice words and just sighed heavily. Yeah, you could be nicer, kid. JP responded, his chest puffed up and his arm crossed over them. This time Zoe rolled her eyes, her face going from irritated to annoyed real quick. She hoped JP realized that Koji was just 1 year younger, just as she was. So there really was no need to be a big macho man. You seem fine, so there's no need, it asked. It'll just be a waste of my time. Koji responded coolly as he continued walking away. He knew the annoying blonde was just going to keep on complaining and just wanted to get out of there as quickly as he can. Zo felt an eyebrow twitching and was about to respond back at his comment when they heard a chuckle from a figure up on a tree. Well, don't you guys look like a lively bunch? 2 hours before, I so bored. Why are we going this way again? Why couldn't you go the opposite way? You know, the way that has idiot Digimons just ripe for the picking. A battle-hungry yet bored ranged out. Fuck my life. Kurama, if you don't shut the fuck up I'm going to turn my mindscape into a little 6-year-old girl's dreamland. An annoyed voice snapped at the huge beast in his head, making it go quiet. Naruto stopped his walking and took out his detector. It started to glow brightly and beeped. The light faded away showing him a map of some kind with a blue, white, lavender, and yellow dot. Whoa, a whole group of them. He said almost too excitingly and grinned. Finally. Thought I'd be the only human here. It would nice to actually have some form of human contact. Naruto said while thinking back to how he got his H-spirit and his first friend. Flashback. 3 years ago. Outskirts of Breeze Village. Naruto blocked the punch sent out by one of his clones and then quickly grabbed the fist and hurled it to another clone. They collided and puffed out and Naruto jumped back from an axe kick and ducked under a roundhouse kick. He swept the clone off its feet before stepping on his face. Ignoring the memory of have your face curb stomped, Naruto charged at the last clone. He jumped behind it and grabbed it by the waist. Using his Hanyu strength, Naruto lifted the clone off the ground and threw it behind him onto the back of its neck. Getting the memories back, Naruto cringed slightly before walking over to a tree where he had a bottle of water and a towel waiting. He heard a whistle in his mind and took a sip from the bottle. Quite brutal to your clones. The fox said and Naruto wiped off the sweat from his forehead. And your point is? Besides being brutal to them, gives me ideas for new moves. The Hanyu simply stated with a shrug. He suddenly froze and looked around before settling on a pair of bushes. I know you're there. It was silent for a few seconds before the bushes seemed to shuffle. A small yellow Digimon with a long and waving fox tail popped out of the bushes. Naruto relaxed a bit and looked at the Digimon with a raised eyebrow. Can I help you? He asked kindly and the Digimon just stared at him. To be honest, Naruto was a little uncomfortable by the staring and coughed awkwardly. This seemed to push the Digimon back into reality as it started to blush. Sorry. Came the quiet yet female voice. I never saw a human before. I heard noises coming from over here and decided to look around. She was silent again, looking unsure of something. Naruto grinned sheepishly while scratching the back of his head. My bad. Didn't know I was loud. My name's Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, but you can call me Naruto. He said and looked at the Digimon expectantly. The Digimon, realizing she had the spotlight, coughed and lifted up her snout in a small display in confidence. I'm Vixaman. She paused before continuing, Naruto, if you don't mind me asking, do all humans know how to create replicas of themselves? Naruto eyes widened and Kurama smacked his forehead muttering dumb shit. Why you seen me? He asked and Vixaman nodded. How? The kid-like Digimon closed her eyes before becoming invisible. Naruto's look of surprise turned into one of interest. So she can become invisible. Strange, I can barely even feel her energy signature. She became visible again and slowly walked over to the Hanyu. As you've seen, I can turn invisible, but only for a short time, which is how you found me before I could leave. She said, sounding disappointed in herself. Naruto heard this and knelt down and petted the Digimon, earning him a purr from the fox. That's a pretty neat trick, and to answer your question, no. At least not that I've seen. So what are you doing out here in the forest all alone? He asked and the fox looked down in sadness, making Naruto's heart ache a bit. I always come in the forest since it's the only place that doesn't shun or hate me. She spoke quietly, obviously not comfortable with her home village. Naruto was surprised and it certainly showed in his eyes. They don't even tell me why. She cried out and found herself in the muscular arms of Naruto. She blushed but found him to be quite warm. Naruto looked at the fox in his arms but didn't see Vixaman. No, he saw a little blonde-haired boy with whiskers. It's okay. He said, trying to subdue the Digimon, I know the feeling all too well. At this, Vixaman looked up at the Hanyu in confusion. Kurama gave a warning growl, but Naruto ignored it and released the illusion he had on his tail and ears. Vixaman quietly gasped as she gazed on his ears. I, too, was shunned and hated, and at first I didn't know why either. Every day I would wonder and think, what's the point of even trying, what's holding me back? He paused and Vixaman wanted to ask what was wrong. Yet she kept quiet and waited for Naruto to speak again. What kept me going was the drive to make my friends and precious people proud of me. He smiled before looking at the Digimon in his arms. Do you have someone like that? I do. She said and Naruto's smile got wider. She's been with me for as long as I can remember. She then frowned, but our village council sent her on an assignment with some others. They didn't even give her a chance to say goodbye before they sent her away. Naruto frowned as his dislike for the village was growing higher and higher. "Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'll be here in the forest if you ever need me." The Hanyu said kindly and Vixaman smiled up at him while nodding all too eagerly. From then on, for the past month or two Vixaman would escape from her village to meet up with Naruto. Sometimes they would play games like tag or hide and seek, which Naruto realized how good of a hider the Digimon was. Sometimes he would show her a few things, like his ninjutsu, or let her watch him spar with his clones. Hell, even Kyuubi, who at first didn't trust the Digimon, grew a very small soft spot for her. When Vixaman introduced Naruto to Salomon, things were quite bumpy to say the least. Salomon had zero trust in the Hanyu and was pretty hostile to him. The eventual pleading from Vixaman lessened her opinion about him, but still wasn't all buddy-buddy. 3 weeks later. Outskirts of Breeze Village. Once again we find Naruto doing a usual spar with the clones, however since he received some of Kyuubi's memories the prior night, then we're practicing a jutsu on each other. Kaiten. Gonkyu, a clone said before spewing out a huge fireball at was then sent on a course for the original. Naruto managed to punch a clone away when he heard the jutsu. He quickly released the illusions and situated himself. Feeling his ears and tail twitch, he took a deep breath and gathered up yokai in his mouth. Concentrating on the incoming death ball of fire, Naruto let loose of the yokai into a single thin beam. Yokai Kausen. The collision caused a huge explosion that blew an unexpected Naruto back and disrupted all of the clones in the area. Ow, 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 ow. Fuck. Naruto chanted as he pushed himself off from a tree that now had his lasting imprint. He looked around the area and sighed sadly. The area looked like a war zone, as the once green clearing was nothing more than a rocky and very barren crater. He sat down and felt his body healing itself from the broken and possibly shattered bones. Kurama looked through Naruto's eyes and gave a disappointed growl. "Nice going, Brad. Thanks to your display I wouldn't be surprised if a Mega walked in and asked for a fight." To Kurama, the digital world reminded him a lot of Makai. The inhabitants only live to fight and fight to live. While he knew Naruto could handle himself against a champion and down, a Ultimate and Mega may prove to be a difficult fight. What he has also witnessed through Naruto's eyes was that these Digimon are attracted to strength like flies are to garbage or moths to a flame. He tried to limit Naruto on how much power to push out, yet the Hanyu seems to find some way past that. Naruto growled himself and leaned back against the imprinted tree. "Shut it, Kurama, it was your fault to begin with." "My fault?" I said try out the Gonkyu and then Yokai Kausen. You know chakra and yokai together is a disaster just waiting to happen. Though I am quite surprised by the outcome. He hummed silently and Naruto knew he was thinking of something that might harm him in the future. Kurama, Naruto thought warningly and Kurama just huffed. "It's a theory, but what if you had perfect control of not only your yokai but your chakra as well? Separate they are dangerous, but together now that is deadly." He grew quiet after that and Naruto didn't understand but was too tired to care. A nearby bush rustled and Naruto groaned quietly, however a frantic and scared Vixaman burst through. Her eyes were the only thing Naruto needed to see to know that there was something wrong. She looked around slightly in awe by the destruction before running over to Naruto who was standing by now. "And Naruto?" She gasped out and Naruto picked her up as he tried to calm her down. "What's wrong, Vixie?" "They took Sala-chan," she exclaimed and Naruto's eyes widened. A pair of Orjamen burst into area where me and Sala-chan were playing. "She tried to protect me and told me to get you while she held them off." By now she was in tears and Naruto's eyes narrowed in anger. "Show me." Order between wind and ice forest. After what seemed to be about a few minutes, Naruto landed in the clearing with Vixaman on his shoulders. The strong yet icy wind was biting at Naruto's face, but his Hanyu qualities was keeping himself quite warm. Vixaman hopped down from his shoulders and looked around with worried eyes. "Salomon." She called out yet the area was quiet. Naruto looked around and breathed in deeply to catch her scent. His slitted pupils seemed to have narrowed further before he grabbed Vixaman and dodged the twin bone clubs. "Damn it." An animalistic voice growled out and Naruto had a sense of familiarity with it. His senses were correct when the two Orjamen came into view. They had a wicked grin and chuckled. Well. Look what we have here, brother." The green one, an original Orjaman, said. The red one, also known as Fugaman, snorted and raised his club. "Ah, I knew it wouldn't be only a matter of time before I get to see this bastard again." He gave a quick nod to Orjaman and ran straight at Naruto. The Hanyu grabbed Vixaman yet again and dodged the charge. He set her down by a tree and, while still looking at his opponents, spoke to her. "I need for you to get to cover." Ignoring her protest he walked forward till was a few meters away from Fugaman. "Where is Salomon?" he asked firmly. Fugaman or Orjaman didn't answer, yet kept the grins on their faces. Naruto curled his hands into fists and stood in a stance. "Well, I suppose an ass-kicking needs to be repeated." He smirked as he got the reaction he wanted. Fugaman, eyes lit with fury and with a cry, charged at Naruto with his club raised. Heavy stick Fugaman brought his club hoping to smash the blonde bastard only for Naruto to jump over him and sent out a kick to the back of the Digimon's knee. Fugaman grunted in pain as he fell on one knee, giving Naruto time to kick the back of his head, sending the ogre Digimon flying. He placed his hand in tiger sign but was stopped by Vixaman. Salaman-chan. She called out and Naruto quickly turned around to see the dog-like Digimon struggling in the hands of Orjaman. He smirked and tightened his grip on Salaman so her struggling would stop. Now don't want to do anything rash. Kukuku. He grinned and Naruto narrowed his eyes and kept his hands by his sides. Vixaman and Salaman, both whose evolution line is quite valuable and expensive if sold to the right Digimon. Vixaman hid behind Naruto's leg as Orjaman gave her a disgusting grin. Why don't we make a deal? Give me the fox and not only will I let you live, but I'll give you a cut of the money. Naruto's look of indifference turned into one of anger and clenched his fists. How about this, you let Salaman go and I'll only kick your ass. Orjaman grin faltered a bit but seemed to grow. Such a shame. Behind you Naruto. Salaman managed to say before grabbed her collar earning a yelp of pain from her. Naruto's anger spiked but grabbed and threw Vixaman away from before an attack that could be described as a mini hurricane slammed right in front of him. There was a mini explosion and Naruto crashed into the nearest tree. Shit. He mumbled as he felt a few bones were broken. Laughter rang through the clearing as Fugaman appeared a shit-eating grin on his face. Don't like to be on the receiving end, do ya? He said as he pointed his club at him. A sickly blue energy formed in front of the Orjaman's club and Naruto prepared himself to do a kawarimi until a yellow ball slammed into Fugaman's stomach. Leave him alone. Vixaman said as she placed herself in between Naruto and Fugaman. The latter looked at the smaller Digimon in annoyance. She kept her stance and didn't move. He and Salaman-chan are the only ones who looked out for me. They give me love and friendship when I needed it the most and I'll be damned if they got hurt. Fugaman bellowed out in laughter causing Vixaman to frown. Oh that's rich. A little training Digimon is trying to be all big and bad. He said mockingly. Naruto groaned as he tried to stand but his body protested. No don't, let's see how this plays out. Kurama said and Naruto growled mentally at him. Is old age getting to you? She'll get hurt. Now it was Kyuubi's turn to growl and Naruto shakingly got to his feet. One thing you need to know about Digimon, brat, they are similar to us demons. The more we fight the stronger we get for the next one. When put in a death-like situation I'm sure they experience a huge power boost in the form of evolving. I'm not saying for you to do nothing but to lay off a bit. Of course Kyuubi's logic made sense to Naruto and he might even be right. But that doesn't mean Naruto has to like it. Vixaman didn't back down even as Fugaman was charging with his club raised high. She managed to dodge his swings and backed away further to gain distance. Fugaman scoffed, what's wrong? Too scared. Vixaman ignored the jest and quickly formed a plan in her head. She knew she was quicker than him, but the Orge had way much more stamina and strength. She took a deep breath and began to run around Fugaman. Like she had planned the bigger Digimon wasn't quick enough and she managed to ram into him a few times. Fugaman growled in annoyance and slammed down his club, sending out a mini shockwave. Vixaman tripped and fell to the floor. Neat little trick but that's not enough. Vixaman looked behind him and smirked. Then how about this? Sledge crash. Fugaman only had a second to react before Salaman rammed into his back and sent him tumbling a few feet. Vixaman grinned and got up to run to her friend. Fugaman slowly got up as well with an angered look. You damn bitches. He looked over to see his brother currently battling with a now rejuvenated Naruto. I give you 2 credit. You are a lot more trouble than the normal rookies we face. Sadly for you that ends he swung his club hoping to hit one of them. Vixaman and Salaman both dodged and simultaneously nodded to each other. Vixaman stopped and closed her eyes while Salaman charged at Fugaman. The fox disappeared and Salaman jumped into air puppy howl she roared out and Fugaman frowned when found that he couldn't move his body. Now Vixie-chan. Vixaman reappeared behind the paralyzed Digimon and latched onto him. Her fangs and claws broke through his hardened skin and Fugaman cried out in pain. Vixaman fangs were known to contain a toxin that made the victim very ill. Though the cure is easy to get, with them being out in the middle of nowhere this battle pushed into Vixaman and Salaman's favor. Fugaman growled menacingly and with the paralysis wearing off quickly, shook Vixaman off. That's it. Fuck the reward. I'm going to rip your spine ug. He dropped to one knee as the toxic kicked off. Extremely frustrated he grabbed him club and placed more power in it than usual. Have a fun time in hell. Hell's hurricane. The bigger than average evil hurricane tore through and both of the smaller Digimon eyes widened in fear. They closed their eyes waiting for the pain to come. They heard a grunt of pain and the sound of a body falling. Both of them opened their eyes to see Naruto laying face down, his back covered in burns and scratches. His illusions weren't up, showing his ears and tails. Ow, when I get up I'm totally yakai calcining your ass. He mumbled. Naruto-kun. Naruto. The smaller Digimon cried out. Fugaman chuckled and Orjaman smirked from his spot. Salaman closed her eyes as she used her holy powers to heal the Hanyu. They both heard a growl and saw Vixaman glaring at the brothers in absolute hate. "You assholes." A data cocoon surrounded Vixaman, blinded the occupants near her. The data cocoon dissipated, showing the evolved form of Vixaman. She looked like a bipedal golden-furred fox. She had golden fur sticking out from her shoulders with a furry chest that was white. Her only form of clothing are the purple sleeves she wore with a yin-yang symbol on each. She had 3 fingers and claws on each hand. 2 swirling comma-like marks were seen on her knees, which were yellow, like most of her body. She also had long, white 3-toed legs and a long, white tipped tail. "Renamen." The bipedal fox called out, surprised was shown on her face. Salaman smiled happily at her evolved sister, while a still injured Naruto was captivated by her sheer beauty. Kyuubi on the other gained hearts in his eyes. "Holy sweet mother of Juubi. I swear to everything if you don't find a way to tap that. I will." He screamed within Naruto's mind. Said Hanyu gained a blush with a twitching eyebrow. "Now is not the fucking time." He thought back. "I will not longer let you hurt my friends." Renamen said, her voice greatly matured and full of confidence. Fugaman shook out of his trance and grinned arrogantly. "Oh. And who's gonna stop me?" Ignoring the ill feeling he got from Vixaman, the Orge Digimon charged straight at Renamen. "Just because you digivolved doesn't mean jack shit to me. Heavy stick." Fugaman tried to whack Renamen with his club, but she disappeared only to reappear above him. "Try eating this diamond storm." Renamen crossed her arms and sent out many diamond shards that pierced some of Fugaman back. He groaned before throwing his club at Renamen. Caught off guard, the club landed straight into her stomach, knocking the wind right out of her. "Nice try, bitch." Renamen stood up only to receive a kick in the same place the club had hit. Gasping out in pain, she fell to the floor with Fugaman standing over her. "Now it's about time that I Happy Howl Rasengan." A dual attack landed and the red Orjaman was sent flying away and landed hard on his back. Naruto panted as he felt the wounds reopen and his healing factor kicking in slowly. His tails were wagging tiredly behind him and his ears laid flat on his head. "That was for last time. You okay, Ina-chan?" Salaman asked as Renamen got up and winching as she did so. The fox nodded and looked at Naruto, who grinned at her. A ting of pink appeared on her fur and she looked away. Salaman took note of this and filed it away as teasing ammo. "This is not over." Fugaman roared as he jumped to his feet. One eye was close as scratches and burns covered his body. Blood was freely running and one of his elongated canines were missing. He gripped his club tightly as he saw that his brother ran away earlier. He'd be damned if he died right here before kicking his coward of a brother ass. Naruto got in front of the girls, exhausted from the day's event. "Shit. I don't have much chakra left and Yaokai is out of the question." Suddenly something glowed in his pocket. Quickly fishing out his detector, they all turned to see an object fly out of the forest and absorb into the device. Naruto was covered in a cocoon of data. "Execute." Everybody froze and stared wide eyes at the cocoon that seemed to be getting bigger. Spirit evolution. The cocoon burst, showing not Naruto but some type of Digimon. He had a black bodysuit, his arms and legs were covered with red and gold armor. There was a silver chest plate secured by 2 red shoulder plates and there were a large black horn-like spike at the top of each one. His face was concealed by a red mask with horns at the top, leaving only his mouth visible. Silver gauntlets and a red belt completed his attire. He had blue eyes, long wild blonde hair that reached his waist with red highlights, whisker marks on both sides of his cheeks and elongated canines. The Gunaman. Fire flared around the warrior, frightening Fugaman. He clenched fists as fire swirled around it. This is new." A Gunaman looked at his opponent and got into a stance. "You're right, this is not over." Fugaman chuckled quietly and did the bring it motion. The fire warrior charged and sent out a kick. Fugaman barely dodged it and launched out a heavy stick. The Gunaman hopped back and started to spin with fire coming out of his gauntlets, creating a tornado made of fire. Pyro tornado. The tornado got closer to Fugaman where a Gunaman came out and landed a hard roundhouse kick to his face, sending Fugaman to the nearest tree. Salaman and Renamen looked on in amazement and awe. A Gunaman leaped in the air and held his gauntlet near his face. Pyro darts. Numerous bits of fire rose out of his gauntlet, which he then proceeded to throw the fireballs at the fallen Digimon. Fugaman breathed heavily as the attacks hit, refusing to cry out in pain. A Gunaman landed back on the ground and began to slowly walk over to the dying Digimon. "I guess that's it for me." Fugaman coughed out as data began take over his body. "Grant a dying Digimon one wish, will ya?" A Gunaman was quiet and Fugaman took that as a sign to continue. "If you ever see that cowardly asshole I call a brother, kill him painfully," he said with a painful grin before closing his eyes as data covered his body and scattered. The Gunaman looked at the particles of data, then turned to see Renamen and Salaman looking at him. A Gunaman then de-digivolved back to Naruto. "Woo, that was tiring, right girls?" Naruto was suddenly tackled by a Renamen and Salaman. "Don't scare us like that again," Bakari Naaman said into his shirt. Naruto chuckled before warmly returning the hug. End of flashback. He spent at least one more month and finally found out why Naaman wasn't so like. Flashback 3 years ago, a few weeks after Fugamon's defeat. Breeze Village. Naruto was walking around talking with Naaman and Salomon as he ran out of supplies yet again. The latter of the two was lying on his head. Their relationship grew stronger after Fugamon's defeat. Well, she won't admit she has grown a small crush on him, but surely was small compared to Naaman's crush for him. The fox wasn't good at hiding her feelings for him, but Naruto, well smart, was completely oblivious to anything involving love. Naaman sighed softly and inched closer to Naruto as the other villagers made a clear path. Naruto narrowed his eyes and growled softly as he saw her downcast look. He was going to get some damn answers. Stopping, Naruto looked around at the Digimons and gave Salomon to Naaman. Both looked confusedly at Naruto and his actions. Stepping up to the nearest Digimon, who happened to be a Gekimon, Naruto glared at the amphibian Digimon and grabbed it by its trumpet. Why don't you guys like Naaman-chan? What the hell is your problem with her? She is one of the nicest Digimon I've came across the battle-blessed land, so I don't see how you cannot like her without having a good reason. And frankly, I'm tired of all of you acting as if she is some pariah. Naaman was thanked whatever deity was out there that they couldn't see the blush on her cheeks, as everyone was too focused on Naruto. The Gekimon fumbled around in Naruto's grasp before the Hanyu set him back on the ground. It's because of the prophecy that our village elders said is to come true. A creature with tremendous power like no other will lead this world in chaos. They said that the creature was to take residence in our village for a while. Naruto raised an eyebrow. So? What does that have to do with Rina-chan? The Gecko Digimon pointed at the fox. The creature was fox-like, and last time I checked she is the only fox creature that has stepped foot in our village, so she must be the prophecy child. Naruto blinked and suddenly thought, wait, fox-like creature, could it be me? End of flashback. A little while later, the three thought it was time to leave the village. Salomon and Naaman both didn't want to leave Naruto, but knew he had other motives. Naruto promised them he'll see them again and got a kiss on the cheek for Naaman. Of course, this led to Kyuubi and Salomon teasing the Digimon and Hanyu. Naruto smiled at the memory and moved quickly through the trees, using the map his detector provided for him. Landing a branch, Naruto looked down to see 4 humans around his age, except for the youngest that looks about 14. They also seemed to have 2 familiar-looking Digimon with them. Naruto skimmed over the teens, deeming them as bland except of the girl who was busy chewing out a dark-haired teen. In Naruto's eyes she was absolutely beautiful, like an angel on Earth or digital world. Naruto chuckled and made himself known, well, don't you guys look like a lively bunch? They teens stopped their bickering and got into a tense stance. Naruto, rolling his eyes, dropped down, revealing himself to the Digidestines. Yo, name's Uzumaki Naruto. Zo couldn't help but blush at Naruto's features. He wore black cargo pants with multiple pockets and tape on his right thigh that was crimson. On his upper body he wore a tight crimson t-shirt that clung tightly to his chest, easily showing his muscular body through the material. Over it was a black leather jacket with multiple zippers. There are no sleeves on his jacket, showing his lean and well-defined arm muscles to the world. On his hands he wore black fingerless gloves with crimson and black sneakers. His face was reason why she was blushing. He had an angular jawline that showed no evidence of any baby fat. 3 whisker-like marks decorated his cheeks, and his sparkling blue eyes showed a mischievous glint, but if you looked hard enough you can see sadness and loneliness. His golden hair reached about mid-neck length and bangs, and the side of his face that reached eye level with smaller bangs in the middle. Zo knocked out of her staring to find Naruto giving her a wink. She turned her head away with a small blush. JP, seeing the interaction, felt a pang of jealousy shooting through his system and settled on a glare towards Naruto. Bokeman and Neiman, oblivious to the growing tension, greeted Naruto. Long time no see, right Naruto? Bokeman said with a chuckle. Hey, it's that yellow hair guy. Neiman said, a bit grew a tick mark and grabbed the rabbit-like Digimon pants. Pulling it back and quickly releasing it, Neiman gave a painful yelp. You lazy buffoon. Bokeman proceeded to lecture Neiman about not being such an idiot. Naruto just chuckled at the interaction. It's good to see you guys. How's the book, Bokeman? Bokeman, after lecturing Neiman, grinned towards Naruto. It's great, I thank you for a millionth time for the gift. Naruto just nodded and turned to the 4 teens. I've still haven't gotten your names. The youngest come up to Naruto. My name's Hime Tommy. Tommy pointed towards Zo and JP. The big guy is Shibayama JP. Who gave Naruto a glare. Naruto just ignored it and looked at the still blushing Zo, and she's Oromoto Zo. Zo smiled at Naruto with a cute blush on her face. Naruto looked at the last person. Koji looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes and grunted out his name, Minamoto Koji. Naruto also narrowed his eyes at him. What an interesting group. After the introductions, Naruto decided to join group of Digidestined as their final destination was the same. Naruto, being in the digital world longer, was leading the group, which irked 2 people in particular. The Hanyu was currently enjoying himself from the conversation with Zoe and Tommy as both Bokeman and Neiman rode on his shoulders. "So how did you get into the digital world?" Naruto asked, trying to find out more information on his fellow Digidestined. Zoe replied back to Naruto with a small smile, "Well, from what we told each other before, our cell phones told us to be at a train station by a certain time. The next thing I know, I'm on a trailman heading towards the digital world. I'm sure the other had the same experience. Right, Tommy?" Naruto raised an eyebrow at the word cell phone but ignored. Tommy looked down at the floor with a flash sadness seen in his face and didn't say anything at first. He then looked up and gave them a smile that Naruto could easily tell that was fake. "Yup, Zoe," he chirped, and Zoe smiled back at him. Poor kid, he must miss his family. What was a Phantom-chan thinking? Naruto thought, referring to the other celestial Digimon he had the pleasure of meeting. He sighed while the fox in his head spoke up. "Beats me, kid. Anyway, it seems to be getting dark. Well, I know you can go on longer, these humans don't have the stamina or the power to move on from what I can sense," Kyuubi said. Naruto mentally nodded and stopped, making the group behind him stop as well. "Why did we stop?" Koji said, his usual cool and collected voice had a sharp tone to it. Naruto just ignored him and looked around the small clearing before smiling and nodding to himself. Koji silently fumed at the thought of being ignored and settled on brooding. The Hanyu then turned to address the slightly confused group. "We'll stop here for the night. The sun's setting pretty quickly, and trust me when I say it's best to set up camp before night hits." Zoe and an oddly quiet Tommy nodded and sat down. JP glare increased but sat down as well. Koji chose to lean against a tree, carefully watching our blonde Hanyu. Naruto sighed at the dark-haired male. "Yup, reminds me a lot of Sasuke. Luckily for him I don't feel any malicious intent. Alright, well, I hate playing leader, we need to set up camp and fast. So JP, I need for you to go find firewood and Koji go gather freshwater from the river we passed." JP was going to protest at being bossed around, but a sharp glare from Naruto made the boy hold his tongue. He got up and quickly went into the forest. Naruto handed 2 canteens from his hip to Koji and pointed in the direction of the lake, as well as giving Koji a look to stop any of his own protests. After dealing with those 2, Naruto turned to the remaining 2+ Digimons and gave them their task. "I want you 4 to go in the woods and gather meat apples. Since Bokeman and Neiman are natives, they should show you what it looks like," Naruto ordered. They nodded and went to go before Zoe stopped and looked back at Naruto. "No offense to you, Naruto-san, but what will you be doing?" Naruto gave her a smirk which caused her to gain a small blush and look away. This caused his smirk to increase and for Kyuubi to roll his eyes. "No need for formal names, just call me Naruto or Naruto-kun, Zoe-chan." Naruto responded, making Zoe's blush increase. "As for me, I am going to scope out the area. While encountering a Digimon around this is small, there are some who don't know when to quit." With that said, Naruto walked into the forest and Zoe and the others went in the other direction. With JP was walking back towards the camp with a bundle of firewood in his arms. He was grumbling about a certain blonde Hanyu while thinking of another blonde. Now, a backstory for JP, he never really had any real friends middle. He scammed and gambled with other kids, gaining and losing money. Girls wouldn't want to associate with him since he wasn't boyfriend material. Boyfriend material includes being hot, some type of athlete, has money for them to spend, being hot. Oh, and did I mention being quite attractive? JP met none of those requirements in their eyes, so most of the girls he met keep their distance. Imagine his surprise when he met Zoe. She was smart and kind, getting him to open up more. It didn't help that she was beautiful, well, to be more specific, too hot to handle. JP quickly grew a crush on her, and when Naruto came through, he couldn't help but to hate him. After all, Naruto met the requirement of being a good boyfriend. He was handsome, some type of athlete if you were to look at his defined muscles, and his clothing looked pretty rich too. Seeing this guy, straight out of a girl's dreamland, JP couldn't help but think that Naruto is going to try to steal Zoe away from him. Besides, if there's anything JP has ever learned is that you need to keep what was yours. Zoe was his and he'll be damned if he let some blonde punk wannabe take what was his, meaning Zoe. HMPH, who the fuck does this kid think he is, commanding me to work while he's probably sitting on his ass doing nothing. An image of a lazy Naruto sitting on the floor with a whip commanding the others to work popped in JP's mind. He's probably trying to impress Zoe-chan. Yeah, that's it. He knows Zoe has the hots for me and want her all to himself. I bet he probably hasn't even got his spirit yet. JP concluded and picked up the pace to the camp. I'll just get my spirit first and show Zoe-chan who's the real man here. I can't wait to show up that blonde team. JP chuckled. He came into the clearing Naruto picked out and placed the firewood on the ground. Seems everyone's not here, and where did the team go? Maybe he left us here to die in this forest. I knew we shouldn't have trusted him. JP was about to continue his angry rant when a scream rang through the forest. That sounds like Zoe-chan. JP said, jumping up to his feet and shot off in the direction the scream came from. With Koji filling the second canteen, Koji stood and began to walk back to the camp. Something seems off about that guy. Whatever it's, I'm going to figure it out. Koji said out loud, walking slowly back to the camp. How did he find us? From my memory, I haven't seen anybody with that type of hairstyle, nor that shade of blonde at the train station. He stopped and took out his detector. Koji studied it before scoffing and continued walking. Whatever, he looks like a happy-go-lucky idiot. Koji finished with a smirk. Though that still doesn't seem to answer my questions. He said with a slight frown. He increased his steps to get to the clearing, seeing the light from the sun fading. He knew some type of digimon roam the night, and while he can most likely deal with it, he doesn't want to fight anymore today. Seeing the clearing come up, he slowed down to a slow jog. Koji heard ruffling in the bush and was about to address the noise when JP came out with a thoughtful look on his face. Koji was going to speak when a scream rang from the trees. Ah! Koji narrowed his eyes, sounds like that annoying blonde harpy. Koji looked and saw JP run in the direction and decided to follow him. With Naruto landing on a tree, Naruto stopped and jumped to the floor. I think this is pretty far. Placing his hand in a familiar seal, the Hanyu whispered, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In poof of smoke 20 clones came into view. Alright, I want 10 of you to go scout the forest. The other 10 I want you go practice the katen. Haisakisho. Oh. And try to do it quietly this time. He said with a small glare to his clones. Some nodded while others chose to flip him off and mutter curses underneath their breaths. Naruto's right eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Oi. Get your asses moving before I really give you a reason to complain. Needless to say, the clones began their task. The original Naruto sat in a meditative stance trying to contact the beast within literally. Hey. Kyuubi, wake your Lazus up. Kyuubi snorted and mumbled, shut up Dumbus. Before snoring again. Naruto gained a tick mark and was about to scream at the sleeping beast when an evil thought crossed his mind. That's okay, Kurama. Enjoy your sleep. Naruto thought to Kyuubi, making the giant beast snore even louder. Naruto then let his plan go its course. At first Kyuubi seemed to shuffle before everything got quiet. Naruto then counted down 5 4 3 2. Holy shit. What the fuck? Stay away, you spawns of Satan. Don't give me a hug, stop petting my tail. Ahhh. Kid, make them stop. I'm sorry. Kyuubi screeched out. Naruto chuckled loudly but decided that Fox had enough, so he stopped the dreamland filled with puppies, unicorns, and anything cute and cuddly. Now can we move on? The Hanyu thought. A wide-ass smirk was found on his face. Kyuubi just glared at Fox's equivalent to one. That was evil, kid, more so than me. Kyuubi pitched out, his voice higher than usual. This made Naruto go into a full-fledged laughter. After a minute or so, Naruto slowly calmed down and wiped a tear from his face. Well, now that you're done being a filled asshole, we can move on to your training for the day. It seemed to be mental training day, so get your blonde ass in here. It's time for Yakai dodgeball while balancing on your tail. Kyuubi instructed with a sinister smile Naruto had earlier. Naruto's face paled a few shades as he hated Yakai dodgeball. His clones snickered and laughed at their creator's distress. Chop, these babies ain't gonna dodge themselves. Naruto mumbled under his breath about sadistic foxes but went to do his training for the day. It wasn't long till a scream broke through the forest. Ah! Naruto jumped up and quickly ran to clearing his clones as he ran. Knowing the scream might have came from Zo, the Hanyu quickly found her scent and rushed into her direction. Before the scream, after Naruto set them off with their task, the group of 2 Digimon and humans went into the forest to find the requested food. So Bokuman, what are these meat apples Naruto asked us to get? Zo asked, looking around for some sort of fruit from the trees. Bokuman cleared his voice before going into his Neiman, and the Digidestine called his lecture voice. Well, Zo, meat apples are fruits that have the same characteristics and physical features as a regular apple. However, they don't taste like apples, instead they taste like any meat you would find. Some of them have a color difference to represent different type of meat. An example would be a blue one, which would represent fish. Most are green, and just like meat they need to be cooked before consumed. So Zo, does that answer, were you even listening? Bokuman yelled at them, seeing that the others were searching for the fruit. Zo chuckled nervously, of course we were, Bokuman, right Tommy? Neiman. Tommy rubbed his hat and nodded to a fuming Bokuman. However, Neiman had to make his statement, actually it was pretty boring, so I stopped listening after apple. Bokuman's tick mark grew and grabbed Neiman's pants, stretching them out, then quickly releasing it. A loud snap as well as a yelp was heard throughout the forest. Bokuman then began to yell at Neiman, who was gushing out tears of pain. Zo smiled at the scene and turned to Tommy, who was looking at the ground with a sad look. She walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Are you okay, Tommy? You seem to be down. Zo asked in a soft motherly voice. Tommy flinched at the tone but nodded his head and replied back to Zo, I'm fine Zo-san, no need to worry about me. Zo saw his wasn't okay and sighed. Listen Tommy, I think I may know your problem. Tommy once again flinched. You miss your family or friends, right? Tommy stood still but eventually nodded his head. He looked up at her with tear-filled eyes. I miss my mom. She was like my best friend cause I didn't have many. The other kids would pick on me saying that I'm a mommy's boy and babies should be in their crib not at a middle school. My mom, though, would give me advice and played with me when the other kids wouldn't. She was there for me every step of the way and now being here without her makes me feel lonely and vulnerable. At the end tears were scaling down his face. Zoe looked down in sadness and gave Tommy a hug which he gladly accepted. It's okay Tommy, you'll see your mom again. Besides you have me, Naruto, JP, Pokemon, Neiman, and maybe Koji. We would love to be your friend and would gladly help protect you. But sometimes you need to know how to grown up in certain situations. Can you promise me that you'll be strong in that situation? She finished looking down at Tommy, who in return looked back at her with an admired glance. He then gained a determined look and nodded to Zoe. Sure thing Zoe-chan. This shocked Zoe, she didn't expect him to think of her as his sister, but smiled. If you two are quite done, can we continue our search for the apples? Pokemon said, breaking those two from their thoughts. They blushed and were about to respond when an eerie voice spoke out. I rather you not. After all I hate it when prey slip away. Zoe stood protectively in front of the others and pulled out her detector. Who's there, come on out and show yourself. The voice chuckled and Zoe felt something touch her shoulder. Craning her head she saw a Digimon and screamed her lungs out. Ah! The Digimon laughed and disappeared only to reappear several meters away. It stood around 4 feet tall if the damn thing was standing. Even though freaked out by the creature's appearance Zoe couldn't but to think how much it looked like a ghost with some huge teeth. Haha yes, scream in terror, for are in the presence of the strongest Digimon in the world. All have trembled before me. I am a god of this world and I have slay others who try and oppose me and stop ignoring me. Indeed, the others were ignoring the Digimon which caused him to fume in anger. Pokemon, is this Digimon for real? I mean he's so Zoe tried to find a right word to describe Bakuman's brashness. Pokemon sighed and responded back tiredly, no, all Bakuman are unfortunately like this. However he seems to be the boldest of the bunch. Oh. Bakuman grew a tick mark at the smaller Digimon's comment. Grr, I'll show you bold, hell's hand. Under its hands arms whatever the hell it is sickle-like appendages grew. Feeling satisfied he rushed ran fuck it the ghost flew towards his intended prey. Zoe's eyes widened and silently prayed to her detector. Please work. Execute. The cocoon of data wrapped around her from making Bakuman stop his attack and confusing while the others took a step back. JP and Koji burst out of the bushes. Zoe-chan, are you Al or what the hell at that thing? JP pointed a shaking finger towards Bakuman. Said Digimon growled menacingly with a twitching eyebrow. Spirit evolution. The data cocoon burst showing Zoe's new form, a fairy with long purple hair, fair skin, and 4 green stripes on her face. The fairy wore a pink bra and panties and a pink garter belt above her navel. She also had large pink boots with green soles, purple backs with butterfly wings coming out of it, green borders at the top, yellow and red circles, and white knee pads, with 4 green diagonal marks coming out of it, forming a butterfly image. She had on metallic gloves with a circle on the wrist, with the symbol of the spirits of wind and butterfly wings coming out of it, metallic shoulder pads and visor, and a headgear with butterfly wings coming out of it as well. Kazuma, JP stood looking at her and gained a huge blush on his face as he thought some not so innocent thoughts. Wow. He mumbled out dreamily. And I thought the last time was an amazing sight. Kazuma smirked at Bakuman who had a confused look. So you were going to show me how bold you were, right? Her sounded angelic and wore a cute smile on her striped face. Bakuman shook out of his trance state and growled at the insult. Stupid bitch. Take this. He charged again and swiped at her, hoping to bisect her in two, only to swipe at the air. He looked around for her and pointed harshly at the group. Tell me where she went and I won't kill you painfully. Tommy pointed upwards and gave the confused Digimon his own smirk. Up here ugly. Kazuma taunted out. Bakuman grew another tick mark and looked up only to receive multiple kicks to the face. Riseo temporal. Bakuman was kicked backwards into the nearest tree, which so happens to be a meat apple tree. Hey look, I found the meat apple tree. Neiman pointed out, which was Tommy, Kazuma, JP and even Koji to sweat drop at his lack of awareness. Bakuman however gained a huge tick mark with one eye twitching. Good job, let me give you your reward. He grabbed Neiman's pants and pulled them back before releasing them into a harsh snap. Tai, sorry I said anything. The now in pain Digimon said. How dare you hit me, you imprudent monkey. Die. Evil charm. A wave of darkness came flying towards Kazuma who flew upwards. The attack hit a tree causing it to become withered and fall over. Kazuma then gathered wind at her fingertips that transformed into mini tornadoes. Try this one, hurricane waves. She let the attack go towards the angry Digimon. Bakuman tried to move only feel something hold him down. Boom, see, I told you it would work. A confident voice though back to his predecessor. A growl was heard. "You want a goddamn sticker. Arg." Bakuman screamed and landed on the ground. Kazuma too landed on the ground and walked over to the fallen Digimon. "I'll let you go. Just don't bother me or my friends again," she warned and turned to walk back. Suddenly Bakuman flew back up. "No, I won't be defeated," he screamed with bruises clearly shown in his body. Ami saw this, yelled at Kazuma, "Behind you, Ni-chan." The cocoon of data surrounded Bakuman's form like Zoe's had earlier. Bokuman looked on in horror. "Oh no, he's digivolving." Kazuma took a fighting stance and unnoticed by everyone Koji slipped behind a tree. "Well shit. Now what, Smartus? The fuck are you asking me? This was all part of your ingenious plan, face." Naruto scratched the back of his head. "I didn't think this far. That's why planning is your goddamn job." Pantomime, Bakuman's new form, if standing yet again, stood around 5 feet and resembled a small Grim Reaper. He was covered in grey clothing with a hooded red cape with symbols on the inside and was pulled up. This covered his face from view, only showing his icy blue eyes. He had an eye-like necklace and held a golden scythe. "And why don't you try hitting me again, weakling?" His voice was much more hoarse but firm. Kazuma got down on her hands while spreading her legs. She spun very quickly, created a strong force of wind and delivered a roundhouse kick towards the Digimon. "Temperous twist," she called out. Pantomime disappeared from their view, causing Kazuma to miss. "Huh, where'd he go?" JP asked, looking around. Ami looked around too. "Where Koji-san?" JP frowned deeply. "The prick probably abandoned us like a puss, just like that blonde team." He cursed, not knowing that Naruto was indeed watching them from his perch on a tree. Ami was about to respond when Phantom appeared right in front of Kazuma. Diabolic Star. Dark energy was released into the weighted chain at the end of his sickle, which he proceeded to slam Kazuma with. "Kazuma-chan. Ni-chan." The group ran towards the downed Kazuma, who was struggling to get back up. Phantom took this time to power up another attack. "Die, Shadow Scythe." He brought up his scythe to slash at the downed Digimon when a rock hit the back of his head. Annoyed by the intrusion, he looked over to see the smallest human of the group, giving his best impression of a glare. JP looked shakingly at the boy and started to back away. "Leave my Ni-chan alone, you bully." Tommy then threw another rock at the Phantom. Phantom slashed the rock and went charging forward. "You insolent little brat." He was about to bisect the teen when a lightsaber blocked his strike. "Try picking on someone your own size." Phantom turned towards the intruder, who happens to be Loboman. "Get out of the way." He twirled his scythe, breaking the lock, and tried to slash Loboman, who jumped right in time. Loboman jumped back and gathered light energy into his left wrist. He quickly aimed it at the Phantom Digimon and smirked. Howling laser. Boom. Another dust cloud formed from the attack, shadowing the area from view. However, Phantom's voice was heard. "Nice attack, but here, try mine." Diabolic Star. Loboman felt pain in his lower back and was sent to the nearest tree rather harshly. When the dust cloud cleared, there stood Phantom completely unscratched. "This why I'm the god of this world. Haha. Now onto this worm." He turned towards a still struggling Kazuma. "I suppose I could save you far later use." He leered at the end. "Fuck the plan." A voice rang out before Phantom was pushed back from the fallen and confused Digimon. They all looked up to see Agunaman in all his glory. The fire hybrid stuck out a hand for Kazuma. "Need some help, beautiful." The fairy Digimon blushed and with use of Agunman's hand, she slowly stood back up. Agunaman saw her blush, gave a toothy grin showing his sharpened canines. JP narrowed his eyes while Tommy looked relieved. "Now who the fuck is this bastard?" the older teen asked the two smaller Digimon. Bokuman held a wide grin. "That is Agunaman, the legendary warrior of fire." The rookie said, already knowing who held the spirit. "Just how many legendary warriors are there?" JP asked. Agunaman immediately tensed and grabbed Kazuma, earning an eep from her. He jumped both from a scythe swipe that would lobbed off their heads. "Great, another monkey joins the fray." Phantom growled out. Agunaman set Kazuma down and gave out his own growl. "Had I known that it was Halloween for pipsqueaks, I would have brought another in training here." Kazuma and the others stifled back a giggle. Phantom, however, was in no laughing matter. "The Joker, eh? Well, laugh at this, Shadow Scythe." He swung his scythe again, this time it had a dark tinted like shadow following it. Agunaman grinned, and to the shock of everybody, he blocked it with his arm. The warrior grinned, and to the immense ire of Phantom he chuckled. That bastard actually chuckled. At him. "You know, standing there isn't going to beat this guy." Agunaman called out. Kazuma quickly shook out of her surprised state, and seeing Phantom still immobilized, she gathered wind at her fingertips. Hurricane wave. The attack hit and Agunaman landed back next to her. Well, since that's done, Agunaman was caught off guard as something came flying at the two. He would jump them out of harm's way, but a wall of shadows surrounded him. Not really thinking about himself, he quickly sprung into action. Kazuma too saw the object and the shadow walls. She closed her eyes waiting for the pain to come. You know this isn't the first time. A voice rasped out. And the chivalry award of the year goes to this dumb shit. Thank you. I would love to thank myself for being awesome and having a useless perverted asshole piece of shit known as Kurama in me for 17 years. Naruto replied back. Kazumi opened her eyes to see a Gunaman in front of her. Her eyes widened when a scythe was seen lunged in the Digimon's back. No. She whispered out, not knowing a Gunaman hurt her. He grunted before ripping the weapon out of his. The action caused a little bit of blood to squirt on the once green grass. Phantoman's cackle was heard all over the forest and a Gunaman gritted teeth both in pain and annoyance. Tommy and the other looked on in horror, seeing how they can't do anything to help their friends. JP stood trembling in anger. Where's that fucking blonde asshole? They need his oh so great help. Tommy too was trembling in anger, but not about the same thing. I need to help them. Come on, stop being a baby. Do something. Tommy bit his lab and clenched his hands into fist. I promised Ni-chan. I won't fail her. Phantoman came in too and made his way to the two Digimon. He was stopped on his path when a rock hit him in the back of the head. He turned as another soared through the air. Phantoman slashed at the rock with narrowed eyes. You know what, Brad? You're starting to get on my fucking nerves. Now leave or I'll cut you into pieces. Phantoman turned back around to face Kazuman when another rock sailed to hit him again in the back of his head. That's it. He's fucking dead. Tommy grabbed a couple more rocks and faced the fuming Digimon with a smirk. Why don't you come and back up that threat, you bully? He turned and ran in the forest. Phantoman, who was already seething, flew after him. No, Tommy. Kazuman called out and a Gunaman took the time fall on one knee. One thing I hate about being a Digimon, my Hanyu powers are dulled like a bitch. Naruto thought as he shakingly stood back up. Should have thought about that before you took the scythe to the back. Kyuubi simply said, smirking as he got a mental picture of Naruto flipping him off. JP ran over with Bokuman and Neiman. Kazuman, are you okay? JP asked, not bothering to ask a Gunaman. Not that it bothered the fire hybrid. As for Kazuman, if they could see her eyes, they would be rolling at his stupid question. Of course not, you idiot. I need to help Tommy. He'll get hurt or worse and I plan to keep my promise. She spread her wings and tiredly flew up in the direction the two went in. A Gunaman gave her retreating figure a look of pride and smiled softly. Hold on, Tommy. I'm coming. She whispered as a new thought crossed her mind. Wait. Where the fuck is Naruto? After waking up Koji, who turned back into Loboman, the other ran after Kazuman and the others. Well, in a Gunaman's case, took to the trees. With Tommy ran as hard and fast as he can. However, it appeared to be not working since Phantoman was gaining on him fast. Come back here, you pest. Phantoman slung his scythe at him. Tommy quickly turned to the right and kept running. The scythe soared past head and got stuck into a tree. Over his shoulder, Tommy had to make a remark. Why won't you do it yourself? Phantoman growled and flew at a faster pace. Tommy kept running till he hit a small stream. He stopped, turned to see nothing until he felt himself get smacked by the blunt side of Phantoman's scythe. Got, Tommy said in pain while tumbling down to the ground. Phantoman's eyes screamed murder and in a cooler, hoarse voice, I have to hand it to you, Brad. You lasted longer than I would have expected, but your little show ends here. Do you why you lost? Because you're weak and weak won't survive here. Now die, Shadow sighed. Tommy closed his eyes. Is this how I die? Sorry, Ni-chan, Mom, I guess I won't be finding home with you guys. Then a flashback hit him. Flashback, Tommy was seen to be in his room crying his heart out. Why won't anybody befriend me? I'm not a mama's boy. I can as grown up as them. Tommy continued to cry when he heard his room door open and in walked in a beautiful woman. She was 5'6" and had short light brown hair that fell mid-neck. She had brown eyes and a beautiful pale skin complexion. Right now she was wear a blue wife beater with a mini jacket over it. She also had long khaki pants and brown flip-flops. This woman was none other than Tommy's mother, Hime Mikoto. She sadly sighed and walked over to her son. She sat down next to him and slowly started to caress his hair. What's the matter, Sachi? Tommy raised his head to see his mother before tossing himself into her arms. Why won't they be my friends? Why do I get picked on? Why? Tommy cried even harder and pressed himself deeper in his mom's chest. Mikoto sighed again and was about to reply back when Tommy beat her to the punch. Maybe I should give up on making friends. No likes me, so what's the point anymore? Mikoto sharpened slightly and moved Tommy so he was facing her. Listen, I know you're having a hard time making friends and I understand how hard it was to fit. Tommy stopped crying and looked at his mom with a confused expression. Let me tell you a story, Tommy. Your grandfather, my dad, had a hard time choosing his jobs. So we moved around a lot from city to city, even country to country. Each time I had to be enrolled into different schools a lot and making friend was hard, even seemed impossible at the time. Some nights I would cry myself to sleep because of my bad luck. I was just about to give up when my father told a quote I would never forget. Don't give up, for you'll always regret later in life. What I'm trying to say, Tommy-kun, is that you should give up now. Things may be rough, but it will always get better. Promise me you won't ever give up. She held up her pinky finger and gave him a small smile. Tommy wiped the remaining tears and wrapped his pinky around hers, giving Makoto his own smile. I promise, Ka-chan. Makoto's smile grew and gave Tommy a kiss on the cheek and ruffled his hair, making him pout cutely at her. Why don't we go out for ice cream? Tommy nodded and gave his mom a hug. End of flashback. No. I won't give up, not now, not ever. His detector glowed and an ice barrier formed in between Phantoman's side and Tommy, stopping the attack. Phantoman's eyes narrowed at this and flew backwards to observe. The fuck? Interesting trick, child, but you're still weak. Tommy pulled out his detector and gave Phantoman his harshest glare. I'm not weak because I'll never give up. Deep under the water an object glowed and flew at high speed to the surface. Tommy didn't know what came over him, but he pointed his detector towards it. Phantoman's eyes narrowed even more. Promise me you won't ever give up. Ka-chan. Execute. A data cocoon wrapped around his small frame just when Kazuman and the others came bursting through the bushes. Tommy. The figure in the trees smirked and sighed, finally. Now let's sit back and see what he could use with this newfound power. And like he said, Agunaman sat down and leaned back. The tree was standing on as his wound healed. Spirit evolution. The air got colder and the cocoon burst and everybody's eyes got wide. There stood not Tommy but a Digimon that resembled a small polar bear with green and red armor. Kumaman. Wow, so this is what it feels like to be a Digimon, Kumaman said as he held his hand in front of his face and then clenched them while turning to look at Phantoman. Said Digimon shook out of his trance. So what, you gained a little bit of power, but you're still weak. And rushed towards Kumaman. Eat this diabolic star. Kumaman rolled to the side and blew an icy gust towards the ultimate level Digimon. Crystal breeze. Phantoman flew higher to avoid the attack but forgot two things. Hurricane wave. He was thrust back down to the ground, harshly causing a mini crater. Lobaman gathered energy into his left wrist. Howling laser. An energy blast made out of light slammed into the downed Phantoman, creating an even bigger crater that was for last time. Kazuman floated back down next to Kumaman. She looked at him and smiled brightly at him and was about to speak when an explosion of dark energy shot up for the crater. Enough is enough. Phantoman came out of the darkness and boy did he not look very happy. In fact, he looked completely pissed. He vanished from sight and appeared behind Lobaman, sending a diabolic star straight to his back, making him crash into a tree and de-evolved again. He reappeared in front of Kumaman and Kazuman to deliver a shadow scythe when a hand of fire stooped his tracks. You're right, enough is enough. Kazuman and Kumaman looked to see it was Agunaman. Said Digimon pushed Phantoman back and delivered a roundhouse kick to the Digimon. Phantoman went soaring through the air and landed roughly to the ground. Agunaman looked back towards Kazuman and Kumaman and gave them a warm smile. Nice job, you two. Rest, I'll handle this Digimon. He disappeared before the two could say anything and threw bits of fire at Phantoman. Phantoman screamed out of pain and anger and got up. Grr, you all are like flies. Just die already. Shadow. Hitsune punch. He was hit by a fox made of fire and was slammed back down to the ground. Agunaman jumped in the air and gathered fire around his feet before shooting down on Phantoman's back. Kick of the Kitsune. Boom, an explosion occurred. Kick up dust. The other coughed and waved their hands in front of their faces to rid of the dust. Eventually the dust cleared away to reveal Agunaman standing over a beaten Phantoman who was slowly designating into red data particles. Why, how? I'm the strongest Digimon in the world. A god. Agunaman looked down in pity and sadness. No one is truly a god. Phantoman closed his eyes and chuckled. After all the traces of Phantoman were gone, Agunaman de-evolved back into Naruto, shocking the others. Sorry for not telling you guys earlier. Congrats, Tommy, seems like my plan worked just fine. Now something cracked in Zoe's brain. Plan. That no good, deviously handsome bastard. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Kazuman stormed up to his face. What the fuck did you mean by plan? Tommy could have gotten seriously hurt caused of your careless act of entertainment. Did you plan me kicking your ass? Hi, answer me, you blonde bastard. JP had never been so afraid of any women in his life. Damn, I never knew Zo-chan could get so angry, but the bastard deserved it. Seeing that show his true colors may push her towards me. Now there are a few things that could get Naruto pissed, whether it be something big like someone hurting his friend or small like the market running out of ramen. However, if there's one thing that can make him furious, it would be getting blamed. After all the villagers did to him, and Naruto really hates the villagers and his so-called teammates. So after Zo, who de-evolved back, stopped yelling at him, Naruto gave her a little piece of his mind. Listen well, I did what I did to help you. What are the chances that humans from the city, with no special combat training, can fight off creatures with powers that can level a city? That's right, no chance. So gaining your spirits can not only save the digital world from whatever shit it gotten itself, but also make sure you survive to save it. Being only human can only help but so much. If I didn't help Tommy now, well, things are easier, then later on it will be much harder. Naruto finished and walked towards the other, leaving a stunned Zo. Let's head back to the camp and get some rest. They all nodded except JP, who was doing his best glare towards Naruto. Naruto turned towards JP and snarled, "What the fuck are you glaring at?" JP's glare got heavier and replied back towards the tired blonde. "What makes you think you can come here and tell us what to do? As I recall, you're not the leader and you're human too, you have a human spirit. Big fucking whoop. You probably have as much training as me. So don't think you're better than everybody." JP shoved Naruto a little bit, making everybody's eyes go wide. Naruto, on the other hand, growled at the useless attempt to intimidate him. JP smirked a little and made to shove him again when Naruto grabbed his wrist. The Hanyu's growl deepened, and while JP wouldn't admit it, he bit the inside of his cheek to keep from crying out in pain. Zo placed a soft hand on Naruto's shoulder. The Hanyu grunted softly, eyes still fixed on JP's pain once. "Please stop." Naruto turned his head and locked eyes with Zo. What took about a second felt like years. The two as both got to see what their eyes really held. "We're all just tired from the day, and like Naruto suggested, we should get some sleep," she said softly. Naruto let go of JP's wrist and walked back to the camp without saying another word. JP just HMPF with his eyes closed, unconsciously rubbing his sore wrist. "He's lucky that you stopped him. I would have beaten him into a pulp." "Right, Zo-chan." He opened his eyes to find them already gone ahead and ran to catch up. "Zzzzzzz. How the hell can someone sleep like that?" Zo thought to herself. Being a firm believer that sleeping increases one's beauty, this was hell. How the fuck can the others not hear that? Zo turned to the other side trying to get comfortable with the ground. Just when she found the perfect spot. "Zzzzzzz. Mother flying fucker." She thought madly into her head. Knowing she won't get any sleep, she rose up from her bed. "I can't get any sleep now." She sighed and looked around their camp. Tommy was asleep quietly a few feet away from her. Koji was sleeping against a tree away from the camp, while Bokeman and Neiman were back to back. JP, on the other hand, was on his back with his best impression of a spread eagle. Loud snores were coming from him every 5 seconds. Zo sighed and turned away to face their other member, but found him nowhere to be seen. "Where's Naruto?" She walked forward into the forest. The moon trailed brightly behind her as she ventured further. Did he run off? The area was silently except for Zo's footsteps against fallen leaves. She got an eerie chill. "I don't like feel of this place," she whispered to herself. "You seem troubled." Zo was about to scream when a surprisingly soft hand covered her mouth. "Whoa there, it's just me." Naruto gave her a foxy grin, causing Zo to blush a little. He snickered and removed his hand from her mouth. Zo lightly glared at him and softly slapped his chest. "Don't do that. You almost gave me a heart attack." She placed her hands on her chest to prove her point. Naruto smiled, but seeing that cute face of yours scared was worth it. Naruto didn't notice that his comment made Zo blush hard. She turned head away. "So what are you doing out here, Naruto-kun?" Zo asked, trying to fight down her blush. Naruto sighed and looked up at the moon. "Well, I needed some air and the fucktard snoring wasn't helping me sleep." Zo already knew who the fucktard was. After all, she was up for the same reason. "But why are you up as well?" Zo looked Naruto with a deadpan expression. "I don't know how the others could sleep through that." Naruto laughed, with Zo joining in a second later. After they calmed down, Naruto grasped Zo's hands, leading her deeper in the woods. "Come on, I want to show you something." Zo blushed increased tenfold. Several minutes later, Naruto led her to a cliff that overlooked the forest below. The moonlight was giving everything a light blue to a grayish glow. "I found this earlier and thought I was a nice place to relax." Naruto let go of her hand and sat down, patting the space next to him. Zo, unconsciously missing the feeling of her hands in his, sat down next to him. What he failed to tell was that he was watching her ever since she awoken. This place was an old mental training ground where the Hanyu would meditate. Of course, Kyuubi used that time to tease the Hanyu. It was quiet for a few minutes till Zo broke it. "Naruto-kun, I'm sorry for snapping at you earlier. It was just that I was tired and I thought I almost lost Tommy. I didn't mean any of it. And I thought you left us." She didn't say that last part in fear of embarrassment. Naruto sighed and looked towards her. "I know, but it should be me apologizing. I completely understand your reason to yell at me. I put everyone in danger because of my actions. I just thought that I couldn't risk that chance." Naruto looked back towards the forest below. "I just know that things are going to get tougher in the future, so I wanted everyone to be prepared and ready." Zo looked at Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder, causing him to turn and look at her. "I understand somewhat, so thank you for looking out for us, Naruto-kun." Zo gave him a big smile, with Naruto returning it. They then turned back to watching the moon. Moments passed and Naruto decided to break the silence this time. "So Zo-chan, what's your life like back home?" "I bet it's entertaining." Zo's eyes widened in sadness and looked down. Naruto mentally kicked himself. It looked like it wasn't, and I just had to remind her. Ah, that's understatement straight from the pits of hell. Fuck, you remind that I'm forever binded to a dumbass with tendencies to get himself in life-threatening situations. The beast inside Naruto told him. Naruto mentally rolled his eyes. Fuck you Kyuubi. And I'm not a danger-prone dumbass. I just have my moments. Well, one of your moments led to us being chased out of that Floraman village. And how the fuck am I supposed to know that plant-type Digimon can actually go into heat? Shit like that is meant to be impossible. Naruto then cut the mental link and focused back into reality. You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to. Naruto offered softly, slightly surprising Zo. No, I want to tell you. Things like this can't be kept inside for long. That and I trust you. She got quiet at the last part. Naruto's eyes widened a bit before he gave her his full attention. My childhood was actually pretty great. My mom was a painter and my dad was an office manager. I have an older sister, Tomoki, but she moved out after high school and went to college to be a photographer when I was 12. My dad would bring me to his office at times and show me how he worked. Sometimes, he let me boss around his coworkers. Naruto gave her a soft smile and chuckled softly. So that's why you're so bossy now. Zo gave him a soft glare before smiling and continuing her story. My mom would show me her paintings and projects, and sometimes we would paint together. Her smile faded a bit. However, we moved to Italy when I was 10. The move was okay, I guess, and the people there were pretty nice. My sister would visit every Christmas and bring gifts from all over the world. Zo smiled at the memories. At school, I was pretty popular and my friends were funny and pleasant. I joined the cheerleading squad in 8th grade through my junior year. My favorite subject in school was surprising language. I don't know why, but I love to learn as many languages as I can. I thought things were going great, but Zo's smile faded now and was replaced by a frown. Naruto grabbed her hand softly into his. She took a second to marvel how much her hand fitted perfectly in his much bigger ones. One day, my dad got a call from his old job wanting him back. So we moved back to Japan, leaving our happy and fun-filled life in Italy. I got enrolled into Suboaki High School, and I thought things would go back to normal like it did in Italy. She felt Naruto squeeze her hand and squeezed back. I thought wrong because they all treated me as an outcast, some alien from another planet. Nobody wanted to hang out with the Italian freak. Being called names behind my back and bullied daily made it hell there. She was in tears at the end, so Naruto pulled her into a comforting hug. She failed to hold in her tears as they came trailing down her face. Outcast, huh? I can totally understand you on that level. Naruto just sat there running his hands through Zo's hair while the girl cried on his chest. Her hair is so soft. Several minutes later she stopped crying and got off his chest and sadly frowned. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to soak your shirt with my tears. Naruto waved off the apology and gave her a sad smile. It's quite alright actually. You can say we both shared that in common. Zo gave him a confused look and Naruto sighed. Naruto Kyuubi growled out in a warning tone. Calm your shits. My childhood wasn't pleasing. Actually, it was downright shitty. My mother and father both died from saving my village from a tragic fire when I was only a few minutes born. The villagers thought I was a bad omen since I was born that night. So they isolated me from everyone, making me have friends near impossible. Naruto said and Zo latched herself onto him, crying on his shoulder again. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun. Here I am, thinking I had it bad when clearly you had it way worse. Naruto hugged Zo back. I won't lie though, I should sort of thank them for molding me into what I am today. He grinned lightly and with his tree hand, scratched the back of his head. So on a lighter note, you were a cheerleader? Zo raised her head from his chest. Yeah. Naruto chuckled but immediately blushed when images of her in a cheerleading outfit came into view. Naruto-kun. Zo called out and the Hanyu shook head softly, a few mumbles coming out. She smiled and returned her head to his chest, enjoying his warmth against the cool feeling of night. There was a couple minutes of comfortable silence before the sound of light snoring was heard. The Hanyu looked down to see Zo fast asleep on his chest. He smiled and gently picked her up and carried her bridal style to the camp. She snuggled into his chest and mumbled out his name. Naruto-kun. Somewhere in a mountain hideout, 4 figures were seen to be kneeling in front of an even bigger figure. You all know your task. Don't fail me or the consequences will be dire. Farewell for now. The figure disappeared and the 4 stood from their positions. Man, he sounds serious this time. Right, Grumbleman. Me don't care, me want fractal codes. The now identified Grumbleman growled out. Y'all can go do that, I'ma go and find my beast spirit. Cherubaman's order can wait a while. The 3rd figure made itself known. Now know if Cherubaman's order shall not be paused for something so minuscule. Randoman grew a tick mark at Mercuriman's comment. Minuscule. Listen here doll, finding my beast spirit is something big and important. Grumbleman rolled his eyes at Randoman. DCH, whatever, we queue even with it. Ranman huffed and walked off. When I get my beast spirit, I'll be strong enough to see him. Next morning with Naruto and the others. Naruto awoke early in the morning and found the others still sleeping. Zo, however, slept close to him. Real close. He smiled and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. Kavkornikov. Go back to sleep, jackass. He rose and went into the forest to train for a bit. He went to the stream they fought at the night before and stripped down to his boxers. Using chakra he walked along the water's surface and summoned a couple clones. Alright, you all know what time it is. A few clones groaned while others mumbled. A lone hand was raised. Actually boss, I don't know what time. Spart time bitch. The poor clone didn't see the powerful bitch slap that sent him to the other side of the stream. The other clones winced in sympathy for the clone. About an hour later he returned to the camp with 2 handfuls of berries and some meat apples. He cooked the apples and waited for the others to awaken from their slumbers. Soon enough the first one to awaken was Tommy. Wow, that smells good. Naruto grinned at the younger teen before sighing. Listen Tommy, I'm sorry for yesterday, I just wanted you to be able to protect yourself and others. Naruto said and Tommy nodded happily at him. And I thank you for that. If you hadn't done then I would have still been a crybaby and weak. He gave Naruto a small smile. Naruto chuckled and ruffled his hair, causing the younger boy to pout cutely at him. You stopped being weak and a crybaby when you up against that phantoman. I like and respect people like that. Tommy beamed at the praise and scratched the back of his head. Thanks, Naruto Nai. If Naruto was surprised, he didn't show it. They heard the others awakened and Naruto plucked the now cooked meat apples from the fire. My, something smelled delicioso. Zo got up and sat close to Naruto and greeted him and Tommy. I'm guessing that means delicious in Italian, right? Naruto asked and Zo smiled at him happily while nodding. The others gathered around the fire and started to eat breakfast. The tension, however, was strong enough to cut a knife with. Naruto rose and addressed the group. Eat up guys, we'll be leaving soon. I have a hunch on where the final spirit may be at. He reached in his pocket and fished out his detector. He pressed the right button and saw a red arrow pop on the screen, pointing to the north side of the forest. Once everybody was finished they set off to find the last spirit. Koji was brooding off to the side as well as JP who glared at Naruto every once in a while. The others were enjoying a conversation about Naruto pranking skills. So when he sat down, he got bombarded with many hidden stink bombs. He smelled like shit for about 4 days. Naruto finished his tale and saw the other struggling to breathe. Man, I guess I feel a little sorry for the guy. Zo was learning on Naruto trying to catch her breath. Naruto instinctively wrapped an arm around her waist to help support her which caused JP to glare even harder at Naruto. The group kept walking till they saw what looks like a big factory in the distance. Naruto narrowed his eyes and brought out his detector. The red arrow came on the screen again and pointed in the direction of the factory. So the spirit might be in that factory. Well, better get it over with. Naruto picked up the pace a little bit and others ran to catch up to him. Hey, Naruto-kun, why are you going faster? Zo said and the others also wanted to know. Naruto sighed and pointed at the factory. The last spirit may be in that factory and I wanted us to get there before the sun goes down. Kami only knows who prowls around this area. Zo nodded and they picked up their pace. About 15 minutes later they managed to reach the factory, but a Miniman popped several feet in front of them. No access permitted, so get moving. The larva Digimon said rather rudely. JP came in front of the group with an arrogant smirk. Oh, and what if we don't? Naruto face-palmed his forehead at the 17-year-old's brashness. This guy is going to get us killed. Remind you of someone? Zo pushed JP back and looked at Miniman with pleading eyes. Please forgive our rude friend, we just wanted a tour of the factory. To add salt on the wound, she stuck out her bottom lip in a very cute pout. Miniman looked like he was having an internal battle before he sighed and allowed them access. Fine, just don't mess anything up. He then disappeared from view. Zo grinned triumphantly and turned giving Naruto a smirk. How's that for acting? Naruto smiled back, keep it up and I might mistake you for someone else. But that said, he walked into the factory with the others following him. As they got deeper into the factory they heard what sounds like whipping and yelling. After following the sound they saw an army of Kakuaman being bossed around by a familiar Ogreman. Move it you rust buckets. Ogreman whipped an older looking Kakuaman making him fall to the ground. A younger looking Kakuaman tried to help his grandfather only to be kicked down and whipped as well. Ogreman grinned as the cries of the Kakuaman reached his ears. Naruto gripped the rail hard causing it to groan under pressure. His looked murderous as his fangs and claws grew a little. Kid, calm down, you're slowly turning the beast in Naruto's mind warned. The others looked on in horror and turned when they heard Naruto growled. Zo went over to put a hand on his shoulder when he looked at her and the others. Get the Kakuaman out of here JP, Bokuman, and Neiman. Koji, Zo, and Tommy follow my lead. JP was about to argue when Naruto grabbed his collar and slammed him on the wall. Now is not the time. So don't fucking argue with me. He let go of a semi-frightened JP and nodded to the others. Let's go. With Agreman, boy, no rest till I say. Agreman was about to whip the two fallen Digimon again when a punch made of fire landed on his cheek and sent him flying towards some pieces of machinery. Pyro punch. The Gunaman landed on the ground with Kazumon, Kumamon, and Lobomon behind him. Agreman burst out of the pieces of metal and landed about a few meters away from the group. Well, look what we have here. It's the hero that killed both of my idiot brothers. Agreman sneered at Gunaman and looked at the others behind him. And you brought friends. Here, let me give them a nice welcoming. He gathered dark energy from his fist and fired it at the group. Pummel whack. Kazumon took the air while the others either jumped or rolled out of the way. Kumamon drew in a deep breath and blew out a gusty cold wind, crystal freeze. Agreman jumped aside to avoid the attack but jumped in the air to avoid Lobomon's Lobo Kendo. He failed to see Kazumon appear above him and sent out a hurricane wave. A torrent of wind caused him to be sent on a crash course with the ground. Ugh, they're tougher than I expected. The ogre Digimon stood up but got slammed back down from a fire-powered axe kick from a Gunaman. Said Digimon jumped in the air and gathered fire around his fist. Take this Kitsune punch. A fox made of fire crashed into the downed Agreman, causing a smoke cloud to develop. A Gunaman landed on the ground besides Kumamon and Lobomon. Kazumon floated slightly above them. Do you think we got him? Kumamon asked. Gunaman narrowed his eyes and pushed him and Lobomon out the way of twin sickles. The attack hit him head-on and he flew back into a machine. Kazumon looked on in fear. The Gunaman. I can't leave you alone for an hour without you getting in some trouble, Agreman. A praying mantis-like Digimon came out the shadow and Agreman got up to stand beside it. Shut up. These kids are tougher than they look. However, you took out the strongest one, so now they're easy game. Kazumon looked murderous and charged forward towards Snaiman. You're gonna pay for that hurricane waves. She threw thin tornadoes from her fingertips at Snaiman, who batted them away with one of his sickles. Nice try, little girl, twin sickles. He sent out two pink crescents from his sickles towards Kazumon, who flew upwards but forgot one important rule. Never turn your against your opponents. Don't cudgel. From behind she was hit by Agreman's bone and was sent spiraling to the ground. Kazumon knee. Kumamon yelled out and was about to go to her when he and Lobomon were sent into a vacant crane by Snaiman's slamming attack. Ah, you had trouble with these runts. Snaiman said arrogantly, and Agreman was about to respond when a Gunaman came through and landed a hard roundhouse kick to his face and a fire-powered punch to Snaiman's face. The Gunaman looked around to find a now humans Tommy and Koji slightly wounded. Unnoticed by anybody, JP snuck back into the factories. Zo-chan needs my help. If I do this, then she'll see how strong and brave I am. With that thought in mind, he went over to an unattended crane. Time for JP to be the hero, not some blonde punk. Seeing a Gunaman face Orjaman and Snaiman alone, JP hit Snaiman with the hook of the crane, causing the insect-like Digimon to stumble to the ground. I got him. JP said in amazement, but quickly jumped off the crane to avoid getting sliced in half. The machine broke apart to reveal a glowing object. The others looked on in amazement, but Agreman narrowed his eyes and was about to charge at JP when a Gunaman blocked his path. You fight is with me, Orj. Team Agreman gained a sinister smirk and ran towards a Gunaman. Then what are you waiting for, asshole? With JP. WW, what is this? Is it my spirit? He held out his detector and the glowing object was absorbed into the device. It's my time to shine. Execute. The cocoon of data surrounded his form and Snaiman looked confused. Spirit evolution. The data cocoon burst, showing a large humanoid bug-like Digimon who had a large horn on his head. He is capable of flight and is covered in a blue and yellow armor like exoskeleton. The armor plates just above his knees bear the insignia of ancient Beetleman. Beetleman. Wow, so this is what it feels like to be a Digimon. He clenched his hands into fist and pumped them in the air while doing a little dance. Snaiman broke out of trance and charged towards the overly excited Digimon. Too damn lazy to write this fight scene out, so use your imagination. But the Gunaman dodged under a strike from Agreman and sent a Kitsune punch towards his face. Agreman jumped over it and sent out a pummel whack. A Gunaman sent out his own pyro darts and the two attacks slammed into each other, trying to outpower the other. I can see why my brothers failed to kill you. He grinned before a flame-covered fist made its way to his stomach. The Gunaman went through hand signs and unleashed a Katen. Hisekishu. The ash cloud covered Agreman, who was looking around for a Gunaman. Well, this looks like the end of the line, Agreman. Goodbye. A Gunaman's cold voice was heard through the ash-covered area. However, a Gunaman was nowhere near the cloud. Come out, fight like a real Digimon, coward. The last thing Orjaman heard was the clicking of someone's teeth and then everything went dark. When the explosion cleared, there was a ring of data surrounding the now deceased Digimon. The Gunaman summoned his detector and scanned Agreman's data. Fractal code digitize. A Gunaman de-digivolved back into Naruto. A promise is a promise. He whispered and went over to join the others. JP was dancing and prancing around now that he has his spirit. The local cuckoo woman also came over to the group and thanked them. They offered to allow the Digidestines to rest in their village, which they gladly accepted. Later on that same night, Naruto was seen to be looking up at the stars from his place on the roof. Man, what a long day, but at least some good came out of it, I guess. You should try controlling your emotions, kid. You're nowhere done with your training, so you're still unstable. Kyuubi said, and Naruto mentally sighed. I know, Kurama, but it's pretty hard controlling my emotions. You've built up a lot of hate, and between training to be the next Kyuubi and saving the digital world from whatever shit it got itself into, I'm pretty stressed out. It was silent for a few minutes, and Naruto returned his attention to the moon. Don't worry, kid, I'll try to find a way to make this easier for you. Kyuubi said generously. Naruto was taken back for how nice Kyuubi sounded. Thanks, man. Don't thank me till you get late again. Kyuubi said with a perverted tone. Naruto rolled his eyes at Kyuubi. Shut up, you horny fox. If possible, Kyuubi's laughter would have been heard all over the digital world. An unknown chamber. A figure was seen to be sitting on a throne listening intently to its subordinate. And then he used some technique, it covered the area in an ash cloud. He clicked his teeth, then it exploded. Orjamon's fractal code was scanned, and now the humans are resting in the village. Miniman said. Then his master started to unleash a hell load of killer intent, scaring the poor Digimon. Master. The figure stopped his killer intent and gave Miniman an evil smile that set chills down the larva Digimon's spine. Thank for your services, Miniman, but you and your subordinate failed to complete my task. It seems to me like you are no longer needed. Miniman looked like he just had pissed and shitted in his pants if he wore any. The figure rose one of its giant hands and slammed it down on the Digimon. It burst into data that was absorbed by the figure. Weak, all of them. Come forth, Duskman, I have a task for you. A Digimon came forth and kneeled in front of the figure. Yes, Cherubaman-sama. Cherubaman grinned and let out a terrifying and sinister laugh that echoed around his throne. What if neglected Naruto was sent to Digimon? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.